How to have difficult conversations that strengthen your relationships, not destroy them. Introduction. What's the one conversation you're avoiding right now? Maybe it's with your partner about money, or with your boss about your workload. Maybe it's with a friend who hurt your feelings. We all have them. These conversations hover over us like dark clouds, and we do everything we can to avoid the storm. We stay silent, hoping the problem will just disappear. But it never does. Silence doesn't fix things. It creates distance. It builds resentment. It slowly poisons the relationships we care about most. This book is about walking into that storm, not with a sword and shield, but with an umbrella and a map. It's built on a simple, powerful idea. A difficult conversation is not a battle to be won, but an opportunity to connect. It's a chance to understand and be understood. Forget complicated theories and psychological jargon. We're going to explore a straightforward path to turning your most dreaded conversations into your most powerful moments of connection. You don't have to choose between a good relationship and speaking your truth. You can have both. Let's learn how. Chapter 1. The High Cost of Silence. Let's be brutally honest with ourselves for a moment. The reason we avoid these difficult conversations, the real reason we choose to bite our tongue until it bleeds, comes down to one powerful primal emotion: fear. We are fundamentally afraid of the consequences. We build up the conversation in our minds until it becomes a monster, a terrifying beast that threatens to burn our relational world to the ground. We are afraid of making the other person angry, of seeing that flash of hurt in their eyes, of causing them pain. We are afraid of their disappointment, of failing to meet their expectations, of being the one who ruins the peace. We are deeply afraid of being rejected, of speaking our truth only to be told that our truth is wrong, or invalid, or too much to handle. We fear that one conversation, one moment of uncomfortable honesty, could be the final thread that, once pulled, unravels the entire fabric of the relationship. So faced with this monster of our own creation, we choose what feels like the only safe path. We choose silence. We wrap ourselves in it like a protective blanket. We tell ourselves that we are being kind. We tell ourselves that we are keeping the peace. We convince ourselves that the issue is not that big of a deal, that it will resolve itself, that time will smooth it over. But the peace we are keeping is a fragile and fraudulent peace. The problem never just blows over. Instead, it burrows. It finds a home in the dark, quiet corners of our relationships and puts down roots. Silence is not a solution. It is a slow-acting poison, and its true cost, paid out over weeks, months, and years, is far higher than you can possibly imagine. This chapter is about turning on the lights and looking at that cost in stark, unflinching detail, because only when you understand the true price of silence will you find the courage to speak. Let's dig deeper into this fear. It is not just one monolithic thing. It is a complex cocktail of smaller, more specific fears that paralyze us. First, there is the fear of hurting someone we care about. This often comes from a place of genuine love and empathy. You love your partner, so you don't want to tell them that their habit of interrupting you makes you feel disrespected. You value your friend, so you don't bring up the fact that they never seem to ask about your life. You are, in your mind, protecting them from the pain of your honest feelings. But this is a profound misunderstanding of what it means to care for someone. Withholding your truth is not kindness. It is a form of control. You are making a decision for them, assuming they are too fragile to handle your reality. True kindness is trusting that the other person, and the relationship itself, is strong enough to hold the truth. It is the belief that working through a difficult moment together is more valuable than pretending that moment doesn't exist. Then there is the fear of making things worse. The situation is already tense. You think that bringing it up will be like pouring gasoline on a smoldering fire. You imagine a terrible fight, screaming, crying, doors slamming. The current uncomfortable peace seems far preferable to the all-out war you picture in your head. So you say nothing. You let the issue fester, believing you are preventing a catastrophe. But what you are actually doing is guaranteeing a slow, miserable decay. A relationship that cannot withstand a moment of friction is a relationship that is already broken. A brave, honest conversation is not the catastrophe. It is the emergency intervention, The real catastrophe is the cold, silent distance that grows over years, the resentment that hardens into contempt, the love that slowly starves from a lack of honest oxygen. The explosion you fear is often a fantasy. The slow, silent implosion, however, is a certainty if the issue is left unaddressed. Finally, there is the fear of being seen as the problem. We don't want to be the difficult one. We don't want to be the complainer, the nag, the one who is never satisfied. This is especially true for people who have been conditioned their whole lives to be agreeable, to smooth things over, to put the needs of others before their own. The idea of initiating a difficult conversation feels like a betrayal of this identity. It feels selfish, so you swallow your needs, you suppress your feelings, and you maintain your role as the easygoing, low-maintenance friend, partner, or employee. But this comes at an enormous personal cost. You are essentially erasing yourself from the relationship. You are communicating that your needs don't matter, that your feelings are irrelevant. Over time, this doesn't make you easygoing. It makes you invisible. It builds a deep internal well of resentment that will eventually poison your view of the other person and the relationship. You are not being difficult when you ask for what you need. You are being honest. You are being real. You are giving the relationship a chance to be authentic, rather than a performance where you play the part of the person who needs nothing. Let's see how this poison works in excruciating detail. Think about Alex and Ben, the college friends who became roommates. Their story is a masterclass in the destructive power of avoidance. In the beginning, their apartment was a haven, a symbol of their new adult lives. But the problem of Ben's messiness started small, like a tiny crack in a dam. Alex, who was raised in a meticulously clean home, would see a few dishes in the sink from the night before. His immediate conditioned thought was, "It's not a big deal, I don't want to be a nag on day one. I'll just wash them." This single act of silent compliance set a powerful precedent. Ben, who was not intentionally malicious but simply oblivious, subconsciously learned that the dishes would magically get done. The crack widened. Soon, it wasn't just dishes. It was pizza boxes on the coffee table for days. It was a sticky film of spilled soda on the kitchen counter. It was a mountain of Ben's dirty laundry that Alex had to navigate around every morning. Inside Alex, a silent and bitter monologue began to play on a loop. Every time he washed Ben's caked-on cereal bowl, he would think, "Does he think I'm his mother? How can someone be so inconsiderate?" He would walk into the living room, see the mess, and feel a surge of hot anger in his chest. But on the outside, he remained a placid lake. He would force a tight-lipped smile. He would say, "Hey man," and retreat to the safety of his bedroom, where he could stew in his own righteous indignation. The frustration needed an outlet, so it began to leak out sideways. He started using his headphones in the living room, a clear "do not disturb" signal. He would forget to pick up the beer Ben asked for from the store. He started a group chat with other friends, where he would complain relentlessly about Ben's slobbishness, finding validation in their sympathy. He was having the conversation with everyone except the one person who mattered. The breaking point was the passive-aggressive sticky note. "Some of us live here too, clean up your mess." For Alex, this felt like a release valve, a way to finally say something without the terrifying prospect of a face-to-face confrontation. For Ben, it was a slap in the face. He came home from a long, stressful day at work, and the first thing he saw was a bright yellow accusation. He felt a wave of shame, followed immediately by a surge of defensive anger. His thought was, "Who does he think he is? If he had a problem, why didn't he just talk to me like a man? We're supposed to be friends." The note created a chasm between them. The apartment, once a place of friendship, became a cold war zone. They moved around each other like ghosts. The air was thick with unspoken words. When the lease was up, they packed their boxes in near total silence. On the last day, they shook hands awkwardly. Two strangers who had once been best friends. Their connection destroyed not by a single loud argument, but by 1,000 quiet resentments. The silence, which Alex thought was protecting their friendship, was the very thing that methodically and ruthlessly strangled it to death. This same tragedy unfolds in our most intimate relationships. Consider Sarah and Mark, the couple with different financial philosophies. Their silence around money was a ticking time bomb. It wasn't that they didn't love each other. They adored each other. But their fear of this one topic was so great that they built their entire relationship around avoiding it. Mark's fear was rooted in his childhood. He had watched his parents struggle, constantly worried about bills. The tension in their house a constant suffocating presence. For him, a detailed budget and a growing savings account were not just numbers on a spreadsheet. They were a shield against chaos. They were his way of ensuring a life of peace and security for the woman he loved. Sarah's perspective was equally valid, rooted in a loving, generous family, where gifts were a language of love and shared experiences were prized above all else. She saw a nice dinner out not as a frivolous expense, but as a chance to connect, to create a memory. Because they never had the conversation, they started to live in separate, secret worlds. Sarah would see a beautiful coat she knew her sister would love for her birthday. She would buy it, but instead of sharing her joy with Mark, she would feel a knot of anxiety. She'd smuggle the shopping bag into the house as if it were contraband, hiding it in the back of the closet. This small act of secrecy was a betrayal not just of Mark, but of herself. It chipped away at her integrity. Meanwhile, Mark would log into their joint credit card account late at night, the blue light of the screen illuminating his worried face. He would see a charge for a restaurant he didn't remember going to, or a store he didn't recognize. He wouldn't see a thoughtful gift or a joyful meal. He would see a threat. He would see his carefully constructed wall of security being dismantled, brick by brick. He wouldn't ask about it. He was afraid of sounding like a controlling tyrant. Instead, the anxiety would just sit in his stomach, a cold, heavy stone. Their avoidance of the real issue created a toxic environment where fake issues could flourish. They had a massive relationship-shaking fight one weekend. The stated topic was that Mark had forgotten to buy milk. But as the argument escalated, the true resentments came pouring out, disguised and distorted. Sarah screamed, "I feel like I'm living in a prison. I can't do anything without being scrutinized." It wasn't about the milk. It was about the hidden shopping bags and the feeling of being controlled. Mark yelled back, "Maybe if you were more responsible, I wouldn't have to worry so much." It wasn't about the milk. It was about his deep-seated fear of financial ruin and his feeling of being alone in carrying that burden. They were throwing verbal grenades at each other, causing deep wounds. But they were never even aiming at the real target. The real target was the silence. It was the elephant in the room that they had fed and nurtured for years, and now it had grown so large it was crushing them. They thought they were protecting their love, but they were actually building its tomb. The workplace is another fertile ground for the poison of silence. Maya's story of burnout is tragically common. She was a star employee, driven by a genuine desire to do good work and contribute to her team. Her boss, like many managers, operated on a simple principle: give the most work to the most capable person. It's an efficient strategy, but a dangerous one if not paired with open communication. When the extra projects started piling up, Maya felt a mix of pride and pressure. She told herself, "This is a good thing. It means they trust me." She worked through her lunch breaks, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she ate a sad desk salad. She stayed an hour or two late, telling her partner she just had to finish one more thing. She answered emails on Sunday mornings, sacrificing her precious weekend peace for the sake of appearing dedicated. Inside her mind, a battle was raging. One voice, the people pleaser, said, "Don't complain, they'll think you're weak. They'll pass you over for the next promotion." The other voice, the voice of her exhausted body and mind, was screaming, "I can't do this anymore. I am drowning." The people pleaser always won. She was terrified of having the conversation. She pictured her boss's disappointed face. She imagined being labeled as not a team player. So she said nothing. The consequences were insidious. The passion that once made her jump out of bed in the morning was replaced by a heavy, soul-crushing dread. Her creativity, once her greatest asset, vanished. She was just going through the motions, a robot on a production line. Her body started to protest. She developed chronic tension headaches. She had trouble sleeping, her mind racing with to-do lists and anxieties. She became irritable and withdrawn, snapping at her partner for no reason. The stress from the job she refused to talk about was spilling over and poisoning her personal life. Eventually, the inevitable happened. She dropped a ball. A major report was submitted late, and it contained errors. Her boss, who was completely unaware of the crushing pressure she was under, saw this not as a symptom of burnout, but as a sign of declining competence. The trust he had in her began to erode. He started double-checking her work, which made Maya feel micromanaged and even more stressed. The positive, supportive relationship they once had was replaced by a cool, professional distance filled with mutual disappointment. Maya finally reached her breaking point. She applied for other jobs in a desperate bid for escape. When she got an offer, she walked into her boss's office and resigned. Her boss was genuinely shocked. "I thought you were happy here," he said. Maya just shrugged and gave a generic, corporate-speak answer about seeking new opportunities for growth. She walked out of that building for the last time, leaving behind a manager who never understood why his best employee left, and a job she once loved, all because she was too afraid to have one single 15-minute conversation. Her silence didn't protect her career. It forced her to abandon it. These stories feel true because they are, but the cost is not just emotional or relational, it is deeply, physically real. The dread you feel before a potential confrontation, the churning in your stomach, the tension in your shoulders, this is not your imagination. This is a complex biochemical reaction. Your brain's ancient threat detection system, the amygdala, is firing on all cylinders. It signals the release of a cascade of stress hormones, primarily adrenaline and cortisol. In the short term, this fight-or-flight response is a lifesaver. It prepares you to handle an immediate physical danger. But your brain cannot distinguish between the threat of a predator and the chronic low-grade threat of an unresolved conflict with your spouse. The problem is, the conflict doesn't go away in 5 minutes. It lasts for days, weeks, even years. This means your body is in a constant, perpetual state of low-level alarm. The cortisol tap is always on, dripping its toxic influence into your system. Leading medical institutions and countless studies have shown what this chronic stress does to the human body. It is a systematic breakdown. Cortisol impairs the function of your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thought and decision-making. This is why it's so hard to think clearly when you're stressed about an issue. It literally makes you dumber. It disrupts your sleep patterns, preventing the deep restorative sleep your body and mind need to function. It weakens your immune system, making you more susceptible to colds and infections. It increases inflammation throughout your body, which is now linked to a host of chronic diseases. It can lead to digestive problems from stomach aches to more serious conditions. And most frighteningly, it contributes to high blood pressure and an increased risk of heart attack and stroke. The cost of silence is written on your body. You are paying for your avoidance with your health, your energy, and potentially even your lifespan. The brief acute stress of a difficult conversation is a healthy, normal part of life. The chronic, unrelenting stress of avoidance is a disease. Beyond the physical toll and the emotional turmoil, the most tragic cost of silence is the creation of false narratives. When there is a vacuum of information, our brains are wired to fill it with stories. And we are not very good storytellers. We are biased, fearful, and we almost always assume the worst. When your friend doesn't call you back, the silent void allows you to create a story. The story is not, they are probably busy and overwhelmed. The story is, they are mad at me, I did something wrong. They don't want to be my friend anymore. When your partner is quiet and withdrawn, the story you write is not, they must have had a hard day at work. The story is, they are falling out of love with me. They are regretting their choice to be with me. You take a small piece of data, a missed call, a quiet evening, and you write a novel of despair around it. This is perhaps the most insidious aspect of the poison of silence. You are not just reacting to the other person's behavior, you are reacting to the terrifying negative story you have invented about their behavior. You then act as if your story is the absolute truth. You become distant in return. You become defensive. You start looking for more evidence to support your tragic tale. And because of a psychological principle known as confirmation bias, you will find it. You will interpret every neutral action through the dark lens of your negative story. The silence doesn't just create distance. It creates a complete alternate reality in your mind, a reality in which the other person is a villain and you are the victim. The tragedy is that a single, simple, curious question, "Hey, you seem quiet today, is everything okay?" could instantly shatter that entire false reality. But in your fear, you choose to live in the prison of your own story. The final bill for the high cost of silence is the death of intimacy. True intimacy is not about constant agreement. It is not about a conflict-free existence. True intimacy is the exhilarating and terrifying experience of being fully seen and fully known by another person, flaws and all, and being loved anyway. It is the security of knowing that you can bring your whole messy, imperfect self to the relationship, and you will not be abandoned. Every time you choose silence on an important matter, you are voting against intimacy. You are hiding a part of yourself. You are saying, this part of me, this feeling, this need is not safe to share. You are building a wall, and while that wall may feel like it's protecting you, it is also imprisoning you. It prevents the other person from truly knowing you, and if they cannot truly know you, they cannot truly love you. They can only love the edited, curated, silent version of you that you present to them. That is not love, that is performance. You deserve more than that. Your relationships deserve more than that. The people you love deserve the chance to know the real you. The peace you think you are keeping by staying silent is an illusion. It is the quiet of a battlefield after the war is lost. The real peace, the deep, resilient, and lasting peace, is forged in the fire of honest conversation. It is the peace that comes from knowing you can weather a storm together and come out the other side, stronger and more connected than before. This is where your power lies, not in avoiding the storm, but in learning how to navigate it. The first, most crucial step is to fully and completely acknowledge the devastating price you are paying for avoidance. Look at the dead friendships, the strained partnerships, the lost opportunities, the toll on your health. See the poison for what it is. Only then will you be motivated to find the antidote. The rest of this book is that antidote. It is your map out of the silent prison and into the open air of authentic connection. Chapter 2. The Big Mindset Shift. It's not you versus me. It's us versus the problem. If there is a single foundational secret to transforming your most dreaded conversations, it is this. If you were to forget everything else in this book, but remember this one chapter, you would still be infinitely more successful in your relationships. This is the master key that unlocks every other door. It is a profound and radical shift in perspective, a complete reframing of what a difficult conversation actually is. The shift is from you versus me to us versus the problem. It sounds simple. It sounds almost too simple to be the powerful secret I claim it is. But embracing this mindset shift, not just as a nice idea but as a core operating principle, will change everything. It will change the energy you bring to the conversation, the words you choose, the way you listen, and ultimately the outcome you create together. Right now, your default setting is conflict. Let's understand why that is, and then learn, step by step, how to install a new, powerful, and life-changing operating system based on collaboration. Our brains are ancient machines, designed for survival in a world that no longer exists. For hundreds of thousands of years, survival depended on quickly identifying threats. It depended on a clear distinction between us and them. Your tribe was safe. The other tribe was a potential threat. A strange animal was a potential threat. Anything unfamiliar or challenging was processed by the most primitive part of your brain as a potential danger. This is the legacy that lives inside your head. So when your partner says something that feels critical, or your boss questions your work, that ancient hyper-vigilant security guard in your brain, the amygdala, sounds the alarm. It doesn't say, oh, this is a person I love and trust who has a different perspective. It screams, threat, attack, defend. The conversation immediately becomes a battlefield. The other person is no longer your partner, your friend, or your colleague. They are the opponent, they are the enemy. Your primary goal is no longer to understand or connect. Your goal is to win, to protect your territory, to prove you are right and they are wrong. This is the battle mindset. Living in the battle mindset is exhausting, and it is the single greatest destroyer of relationships. When you are in this mode, your entire physiology changes. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, your hearing narrows, filtering out nuance and only listening for points you can attack. You are not having a conversation. You are in a verbal war. You are stockpiling ammunition, waiting for the other person to take a breath so you can launch your next missile. You use words like always and never, which are the verbal equivalent of dropping bombs. You always do this. You never listen to me. You engage in character assassination, turning a specific issue into a global judgment of who they are as a person. An unwashed dish is no longer about the dish. It becomes evidence that you are lazy and inconsiderate. A missed deadline is no longer about a specific task. It becomes proof that you are unreliable and don't care about your job. In the battle mindset, there can only be one winner. For you to be right, the other person must be wrong. For you to be good, they must be bad. And even if you win the argument, what have you truly lost? You have lost connection. You have lost trust. You have left the person you care about feeling defeated, unheard, and resentful. You may have won the battle, but you have badly damaged the very landscape you both have to live on. Now let's introduce the paradigm shift. Imagine for a moment that the problem is not the other person. Imagine the problem is a separate entity. It is a third thing in the room. It is a physical object that you and your partner can both look at together. This is the essence of the us versus the problem mindset. You are not opponents sitting across a chessboard. You are partners sitting on the same side of the table, looking together at the puzzle you need to solve. This simple act of externalizing the problem is profoundly powerful. It instantly depersonalizes the conflict. It drains the situation of its toxic, accusatory energy. You are no longer attacking each other. You are teaming up to attack the problem. Let's make this tangible with one of the most powerful analogies you will ever learn for communication: the leaky canoe. Imagine you and your partner are in a canoe in the middle of a beautiful, calm lake. Suddenly, you hear a faint gurgling sound. You look down and see a small puddle of water at your feet. A leak has sprung in the bottom of the canoe. Now, if you are operating from the battle mindset, you would immediately turn to your partner and say, "What did you do? Your side of the canoe is sinking. You are always so clumsy, you probably kicked a hole in it." Your partner, feeling attacked, would immediately fire back. "My side? It's your side. You're the one who weighs more. You probably cracked it when you got in. This is your fault." While you are both busy assigning blame, screaming at each other about whose fault it is, the canoe is steadily filling with water. You might win the argument by making your partner feel terrible. But your victory prize is that you both sink into the cold, dark water. It is a completely insane way to behave, yet it is exactly how we approach our problems in relationships every single day. Now, let's replay the scene with the us versus the problem mindset. You see the water. You turn to your partner and say, "Hey, we have a problem. There's a leak in our canoe." Notice the language. We have a problem. The problem is the leak. Your partner looks down, sees the water and says, "Oh wow, you're right. Okay, what should we do?" You are now on the same team. The enemy is the hole in the boat. It is not each other. One of you might start bailing water out with a cupped hand, while the other starts searching for the source of the leak. You are communicating, you are collaborating, you are focused on a shared goal, not sinking. You are working together to save your shared vessel. This is the difference. In one scenario, you both drown in a sea of resentment and blame. In the other, you save your relationship and probably have a story to laugh about later. The problem in your relationship, whether it's about money, chores, intimacy, or parenting, is the leak in your canoe. Your job is not to blame the other person for the leak. Your job is to invite them to help you patch the hole together. Let's apply this to a real-life scenario that is not as life and death as a sinking canoe, but often feels like it. Let's meet Maria and Tom. They have been married for 5 years and have fallen into a classic conflict loop around housework. Maria feels like she does everything. Tom feels like nothing he does is ever good enough. They are stuck in the battle mindset. The conversation usually starts with an explosion from Maria. She will have spent her Saturday morning cleaning the entire house while Tom watched a soccer game. She is seething. Her internal monologue is, "He is so selfish. He just sits there, like a king on his throne while I work like a servant. He doesn't respect me or my time." Finally, she can't hold it in anymore. She storms into the living room and says, "It must be nice to just sit on your butt all day while I do everything around here. This place would be a pigsty if it wasn't for me." Tom is immediately on the defensive. He feels attacked and unappreciated. His internal monologue is, "Here we go again, I can't even relax for an hour. I took out the trash yesterday and I mowed the lawn last week." But does she ever notice that? No. All she sees is what I'm not doing right now. So he fires back, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize Your Highness required me to be scrubbing floors during the one time all week I get to relax. I work hard all week to pay for this house you get to clean, and the war is on." They might argue for an hour, dredging up past grievances, hurling insults. At the end of it, they are both wounded and exhausted. Nothing is resolved. The underlying issue, the unfair division of labor, remains untouched. They have just thrown verbal rocks at each other, and now they will retreat to their separate corners to lick their wounds, the distance between them wider than ever. This is the you versus me model, and it is a recipe for misery. Now let's rewind and have Maria approach this with the us versus the problem mindset. This requires her to do some work before she even opens her mouth. She feels the anger rising, but instead of letting it explode, she hits pause. She identifies the leak in their canoe. The leak isn't Tom. The leak is the way household chores are currently being managed. The problem is the system or lack thereof. The problem is the imbalance of workload. She has now externalized it. It is a thing. It is a puzzle to be solved. She waits for a calm moment, perhaps later that evening when the TV is off. She approaches Tom not with an accusation, but with an invitation. She sits next to him and says, "Hey, can we talk for a few minutes about something? I've been feeling really overwhelmed lately with the amount of housework, and I'm worried it's starting to make me resentful, which I don't want. I feel like our current system for how we handle chores isn't working for me, and I was hoping we could figure out a new plan together that feels fair to both of us." Look at the power of this opening. It is a masterpiece of collaboration. She uses I statements to describe her feelings. "I've been feeling overwhelmed." She explicitly states her positive intention. "I don't want to be resentful." She clearly names the external problem, our current system for how we handle chores. And she ends with a clear invitation to cooperate. "I was hoping we could figure out a new plan together." She is not attacking Tom. She is inviting him to be her teammate in defeating the monster of household imbalance. Tom's defenses, which would normally shoot up like a castle wall, have no reason to activate. He is not being called lazy or selfish. He is being asked to be a partner. He is much more likely to respond with something like, "Oh, I didn't realize you were feeling that overwhelmed. I don't want you to feel like that. Yeah, let's talk about it. What are you thinking?" The entire dynamic has shifted. They are now sitting on the same side of the table, looking at the problem of the system together. They can start brainstorming solutions. Maybe they make a list of all the chores. Maybe they divide them up. Maybe they decide to hire a cleaner once a month. The specific solution almost doesn't matter. What matters is that they are solving it together. They are patching the leak in their canoe. And in doing so, they are not just fixing the problem. They are actively strengthening their relationship. They are building trust. They are proving to each other that they are a team. This mindset shift is powered by one of the most underrated tools of human connection, curiosity. In the battle mindset, you are driven by the need to be right. Your only goal is to prove your point, to deliver your monologue. In the us versus the problem mindset, your primary driver is curiosity. You shift from being a lawyer who is trying to win a case to being a detective who is trying to solve a mystery. A lawyer enters the room believing they already know the truth. They are just there to present their evidence and discredit the other side. A detective enters the room with a beginner's mind. They know there is a mystery to be solved, and they believe the other person holds crucial clues. Their job is to gather information, to understand the other person's perspective, to ask questions. A lawyer says, "Let me tell you why you're wrong." A detective says, "Help me understand how you see this." Cultivating this curiosity is an active skill. It means genuinely believing that you do not have all the information. It means accepting that the other person has a set of experiences, thoughts, and feelings that have led them to their current position, and that their position is just as valid to them as yours is to you. This doesn't mean you have to agree with them. It just means you have to be willing to understand them. Before you enter a conversation, ask yourself some curious questions. I wonder what this situation looks like from their side. I wonder what pressures they are under that I might not be seeing. I wonder what they are afraid of in this situation. I wonder what their positive intentions are. By asking these questions, you begin to see the other person not as a one-dimensional villain in your story, but as a complex human being, just like you. Let's look at a professional example. Chloe and David are business partners in a small graphic design agency. They are facing a classic problem. Chloe feels that David is not pulling his weight on the business development side of things. She is the one constantly networking, taking potential clients to lunch, and writing proposals, while David focuses on the creative work he enjoys. The battle mindset approach would be for Chloe to confront David with an accusation. David, we need to talk. I am sick and tired of being the only one trying to grow this business. You just hide behind your computer all day while I do all the hard work of finding clients. If you don't start stepping up, this partnership isn't going to work. David would instantly feel attacked, his identity as a hard-working creative professional threatened. He would likely defend himself by listing all the creative projects he's completed, accusing Chloe of not appreciating his artistic contribution. They would become locked in a struggle over who works harder, a battle that is impossible to win and that erodes the foundation of their partnership. Now let's see how Chloe could use the us versus the problem mindset, fueled by curiosity. Before she talks to David, she gets curious. I know David is a brilliant designer, but he seems to hate the sales part of the job. I wonder why that is. Is he afraid of rejection? Does he feel like he's bad at it? Is it draining his creative energy? She's already starting to see him with more empathy. She then frames the problem as an external one. The problem isn't David's laziness. The problem is our current strategy for client acquisition. She schedules a time to talk. She opens with, "Hey David, can we brainstorm for a bit about the business? I've been looking at our numbers and I think for us to get to the next level, we have a challenge to solve. We need to find a more effective and sustainable way to bring in new clients. I was hoping we could put our heads together on it." She has invited him to be her partner. The problem is a puzzle on the table between them. She can then add her perspective, still driven by curiosity. From my side, I feel like I'm spending a lot of my time on networking and proposals, and it's starting to burn me out a little. I'm wondering what your perspective is on the business development side of things, and how you think we could best tackle this challenge as a team. This open-ended question is a genuine invitation for David to share his experience. He is not being accused, so he doesn't need to be defensive. He might say something Chloe never expected. To be honest, Chloe, I'm terrible at that stuff. I get so nervous before a client meeting that I feel sick. I know it's important, but every time I try, I feel like a fraud and it kills my creative energy for days. This is a breakthrough. Chloe has just discovered a crucial clue. David's behavior wasn't about laziness. It was about genuine fear and anxiety. Now that they are on the same side, looking at the problem of client acquisition, they can design a solution that plays to their strengths. Maybe they decide to hire a commission-based salesperson. Maybe they decide to invest in online marketing that David can manage, which is less face-to-face. Maybe Chloe agrees to handle the initial meetings, and David joins in once the client is hooked on the creative ideas. The solution they create is stronger because it's built on a true understanding of the whole picture. They have not only solved a business problem, but they have also deepened their understanding of and respect for each other. Their partnership is now stronger, not weaker. They have successfully patched the leak in their canoe. So how do you start practicing this? It begins in your own mind. The next time you feel that familiar spark of anger or frustration towards someone, I want you to perform a simple mental exercise. First, stop. Do not speak. Do not type. Just pause. Second, consciously identify the leak in the canoe. Give the problem a name that is separate from the person. Instead of, "My husband is so messy," change it to "the problem of our cluttered living room." Instead of, "My boss is a micromanager," change it to "the problem of our communication and feedback process." Instead of, "My friend is so flaky," change it to "the problem of how we schedule our time together." This simple act of relabeling is incredibly powerful. It moves the problem from being an inherent, unchangeable flaw in the other person's character to being a separate, solvable, external issue. Third, activate your curiosity. Ask yourself at least 3 "I wonder" questions about the other person's perspective. I wonder what they are feeling right now. I wonder what part of this situation I am not seeing. I wonder what a positive outcome would look like for them. This primes your brain for empathy and collaboration. Fourth, and finally, formulate your opening line as an invitation. Craft a sentence that clearly states your positive intention, names the external problem, and invites the other person to solve it with you. Something like, "I really value our friendship, and I've been feeling a bit disconnected lately. I think the way we've been communicating about plans has been a bit off, and I'd love to figure out a better way with you." This is not a magic trick. It is a skill. It will feel awkward at first. Your old battle-hardened brain will want to jump back into the fight. You will have to consciously and deliberately choose this new path. But every time you do it, you are carving a new neural pathway. You are training your brain to see connection where it once saw conflict. You are building a muscle of collaborative strength. The most powerful realization is this: you do not have to choose between speaking your truth and preserving your relationship. That is a false choice, a lie told to us by the battle mindset. The us versus the problem approach allows you to do both. It allows you to be honest about your feelings and needs while simultaneously strengthening the bonds of trust and respect with the people you care about. This is not about being soft or avoiding conflict. It is about engaging in a more intelligent, effective, and loving form of conflict. It is the art of turning a potential war into a powerful alliance. This is your new superpower. Learn to use it, and you will not only change your conversations, you will change the entire landscape of your life. Chapter 3. The most important conversation happens. First, with yourself. Before you ever open your mouth to speak to another person, before you even think about scheduling a time to talk, the most critical and decisive conversation must take place. It is not with your partner, your boss, or your friend, it is with yourself. We often charge into difficult conversations like amateur soldiers running into battle, armed with a vague sense of injustice, a messy tangle of emotions, and no clear objective. We are a walking, talking storm of unprocessed feelings and unexamined assumptions. And then we wonder why we leave a trail of destruction in our wake. A successful conversation is not born from spontaneous emotional combustion. It is architected. It is built upon a solid foundation of self-awareness and clarity. If you walk into a conversation with a chaotic mess inside you, you will inevitably create a chaotic mess between you and the other person. This chapter is your training ground. It is your private strategy session. Here you will learn how to untangle the knotted mess of your own thoughts and feelings so that you can enter the real conversation with clarity, purpose, and a genuine chance at success. We will do this using a simple but profoundly effective 3-step framework for this internal conversation. First, you must understand what you are truly feeling. Second, you must deconstruct the story you are telling yourself. And third, you must define what you actually want. Mastering this internal dialogue is not just preparation for the conversation. In many ways, it is the conversation. Step 1. What am I truly feeling? When we are upset, our minds tend to default to blunt, simple, and often angry labels. I'm pissed off. I'm so annoyed. I'm furious. Anger is a powerful and valid emotion, but it is very often a secondary emotion. It is like the hard protective shell of an armadillo. It is the emotion that makes us feel powerful and safe, so it is the one we show to the world. But underneath that hard shell, there is usually a much softer, more vulnerable creature. Underneath the anger, there is often hurt, fear, disappointment, embarrassment, or shame. To have a productive conversation, you must be willing to look underneath the shell of your anger and identify the primary, more vulnerable emotion that is actually driving your reaction. Why? Because speaking from a place of anger almost always triggers defensiveness in the other person. Speaking from a place of vulnerability, however, often inspires empathy. Think about it. If you say to your partner, "I'm so pissed off that you forgot my birthday," their brain immediately registers an attack. Their defenses will go up, and they will likely respond with an excuse or a counterattack. "I've been so stressed at work, you know that. You forgot my mother's birthday last year. You are now in a fight, but what if you did the internal work first? You would ask yourself, okay, I'm angry, but what's beneath that anger? As you dig deeper, you might realize, I'm not just angry, I am deeply hurt. My feelings are hurt because when you forgot my birthday, the story I told myself is that I am not important to you, that you don't think about me. And that makes me feel scared. I'm scared that we are drifting apart. Now imagine starting the conversation from that place of primary emotion. Hey, can we talk for a minute? I know you've been stressed, but I have to be honest. I'm feeling really hurt that you forgot my birthday. It made me feel unimportant, and that scared me a little. Which of these two openings is more likely to lead to connection and understanding? The second one, 1,000 times over. It is an invitation to connect, not a declaration of war. It bypasses their defenses and speaks directly to their heart. So how do you do this? How do you find the soft creature under the hard shell? It requires a moment of quiet, courageous introspection. Find a quiet space, even if it's just for 5 minutes in your car or in the bathroom. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths. Now, turn your attention inward and ask the question, what am I feeling right now? Let the first answer come, which might be angry. Acknowledge it. Okay, I feel anger. Then ask the next question. What else is here? Scan your body. Do you feel a tightness in your chest? That might be anxiety or fear. Do you feel a hollow ache in your stomach? That might be sadness or disappointment. Do you feel a hot flush in your face? That might be embarrassment or shame. Stay with the physical sensations. They are often the most honest messengers of our emotions. It can be helpful to have a wider vocabulary of feelings. We often get stuck on mad, sad, and glad, but the landscape of our emotional world is far richer and more nuanced than that. Are you feeling neglected, invisible, disrespected, betrayed, insecure, overwhelmed, inadequate, lonely, or helpless? Each of these words carries a different energy and points to a different core need. Naming your emotion with precision is like turning a blurry photograph into a high-resolution image. It brings clarity. Write it down. Make a list. Okay, I am feeling 1. Angry because my expectation was violated. 2. Disappointed because I was looking forward to celebrating. 3. Hurt because my story is that this means I don't matter. 4. Scared because I'm worried this is a sign of a bigger problem. Now you have a clear, honest, and comprehensive map of your own emotional state. You are no longer just a storm of anger. You are a human being with a complex and legitimate set of feelings. This is the raw material for a truly honest and productive conversation. Step 2. What is the story I am telling myself? This is, without a doubt, the most powerful and transformative step in this entire process. Between an event happening and our emotional reaction to it, a critical and often instantaneous process takes place. We tell ourselves a story. We are meaning-making machines. We cannot stand a vacuum of information, so we create narratives to explain why things happen and what other people's intentions are. The problem is we are often terrible, biased, and deeply pessimistic storytellers. We write these stories in a split second, and then we treat them as if they are undisputed, factual reports. But they are not. They are just stories. And learning to question your own stories is a superpower. Let's go back to the forgotten birthday. The event is a simple, observable fact. Your partner did not say happy birthday to you. That is the data. Now, what is the story you told yourself? The story was, he forgot because he doesn't care about me anymore. He is selfish. Our relationship is doomed. This story is what caused the intense hurt and fear. It was not the event itself, but your interpretation of the event. Now, the crucial work is to recognize that this is just one possible story. It is a story you wrote, starring yourself as the victim and your partner as the villain. But are there other possible stories that could also fit the same set of facts? This is where you must become a gentle but firm interrogator of your own mind. You must challenge your own narrative. Here is a powerful set of questions you can ask yourself to deconstruct your story. What is the hard, indisputable evidence for my story? The only hard evidence is that the words happy birthday were not spoken. That's it. Everything else, his motives, his feelings, the state of your relationship, is an assumption. What is the evidence against my story? Well, Did he make you coffee this morning? Did he kiss you goodbye before he left for work? Did he do something kind for you last week? Is he generally a loving and supportive partner? Usually when we look for counter-evidence, we find an abundance of it that our negative story has conveniently ignored. What are 3 other possible, more generous stories to explain the event? This is a creative exercise in empathy. Story A. He has been under an immense, soul-crushing amount of pressure at work, and his brain is so fried that a significant date slipped his mind. His forgetfulness is a symptom of his burnout, not a reflection of his love for you. Story B. He is actually planning a surprise party for you this weekend and has been instructed by your friends to pretend he forgot in order to make the surprise even bigger. Story C. He has a deep-seated anxiety around birthdays because of a negative experience in his own childhood, and he avoids them subconsciously. Which of these stories is the truth? You have no idea, and that is the entire point. By acknowledging that there are multiple possible narratives, you have already broken the spell of your own negative story. You have moved from a position of angry certainty to a position of humble curiosity. This process of questioning our stories comes from the world of cognitive behavioral therapy, and it is one of the most effective tools for managing difficult emotions. We get trapped by what psychologists call cognitive distortions, or thinking traps. These are common habitual ways of thinking that are often inaccurate and lead to negative emotions. One of the most common is mind reading. This is when you assume you know what another person is thinking or feeling without any direct evidence. I know he's mad at me. She thinks I'm an idiot. You are not a psychic. You cannot read minds. The only way to know what someone is thinking is to ask them. Another common trap is catastrophizing. This is when you take a single event and blow it up into a worst-case scenario. Your teenager gets a C on a test, and your story is, he's going to fail out of school, he'll never get into college, and his life will be ruined. This is not a rational prediction. It is a fantasy of disaster. By identifying the story you are telling yourself and recognizing it as just that, a story, you reclaim your power. You are no longer a helpless victim of your emotions. You are the author of your experience, and you can choose to write a different story. The goal is not to convince yourself of a ridiculously positive Pollyanna-ish story. The goal is to move from negative certainty to a place of neutrality and curiosity. The most accurate and helpful story to hold before a difficult conversation is this: I don't know the full story. I only know my side. The other person has their own story, and my goal is to understand it. Holding this story as your truth will fundamentally change how you enter the conversation. You will enter not with an accusation, but with a question. You will not say, "Why don't you care about me?" You will say, "I felt hurt when my birthday was forgotten, and I want to understand what was happening for you." You are not there to prosecute them based on your story. You are there to share your story and for the first time to hear theirs. Step 3. What do I actually want? After you have clarified your feelings and deconstructed your story, you must get crystal clear on your objective. Many of us enter difficult conversations with vague, unhelpful, and often destructive goals. Our hidden goal is often to punish the other person, to make them feel as bad as we do. Or our goal is to win, to force them to admit that we were right all along. Or our goal is to vent, to simply dump our messy emotions onto the other person. These goals are guaranteed to fail. They will lead to more conflict, more distance, and more pain. A productive conversation requires a clear, positive, and constructive goal. You need to be able to answer the question, if this conversation is a complete success, what will be different at the end of it? To find your true goal, you must look beyond your immediate impulses. You must ask yourself, what do I want for this relationship in the long term? When you ask that question, your perspective shifts. Your goal is probably not to prove that your partner was a jerk for forgetting your birthday. Your real long-term goal is likely to feel cherished and prioritized in the relationship, or to know that we can communicate effectively when one of us feels hurt. These are constructive, positive goals. They are about building something better for the future, not just punishing a mistake in the past. A powerful technique for clarifying your goal is to phrase it as a positive, actionable outcome. Instead of a negative goal like, "I want him to stop being so messy," reframe it into a positive goal. I want us to create a simple, fair system for keeping our shared spaces clean. Instead of, I want my boss to stop micromanaging me, reframe it as, I want to clarify our roles and establish a process of communication and trust that allows me to work more autonomously. A well-defined goal should answer 3 questions. What do I want to understand? I want to understand your perspective on our finances. What do I want the other person to understand? I want you to understand the stress I feel when we go over budget. What do I want to happen as a result? I want us to work together to create a monthly budget that we can both feel good about. Let's walk through this entire 3-step internal conversation with a single detailed example. Let's imagine a character named Jessica. Her friend Lisa promised to help her move apartments on Saturday, but cancelled at the last minute via text message saying something came up. Jessica had to scramble to find other help and is feeling furious. The old Jessica would fire off an angry text message and potentially ruin the friendship. But the new Jessica decides to have the most important conversation first, with herself. First, she checks her feelings. Her initial reaction is white-hot anger, but she digs deeper. What's under the anger? She realizes she feels incredibly let down and disappointed. She feels disrespected, as if her time and her needs don't matter. And underneath that, she feels a pang of fear. Lisa is her best friend, and this feels so out of character that she's scared something is wrong with their friendship. So she now has her emotional map: anger, disappointment, feeling disrespected, and fear. Second, she examines the story she is telling herself. Her automatic story is, Lisa is a terrible, flaky friend. She got a better offer for something more fun to do on Saturday and just ditched me. She doesn't value our friendship at all. Jessica recognizes this as a classic case of mind reading and catastrophizing. She decides to challenge it. What's the evidence for this story? Only the text message. What's the evidence against it? Years of friendship. The time Lisa sat with her all night in the emergency room. The fact that Lisa was the one who threw her a surprise party for her 30th birthday. The evidence against the bad friend story is overwhelming. So, what are 3 other possible stories? Story A. Lisa is having a serious personal crisis. A family emergency, a health scare that is so private and painful she can't even talk about it right now. Story B. Lisa's chronic anxiety, which Jessica knows she struggles with, flared up so badly that she was paralyzed and couldn't leave the house, and she was too ashamed to admit the real reason. Story C. Lisa's ex-boyfriend, who has a history of causing drama, showed up unannounced and created a situation she had to deal with. Jessica doesn't know which, if any, of these are true, but by simply creating them, she has replaced her angry certainty with empathetic curiosity. Third, she defines what she actually wants. Her initial vengeful impulse is that she wants to make Lisa feel guilty. But she knows that's not a helpful goal. What does she want for the friendship in the long term? She wants to know that she can count on Lisa. She wants to be able to talk openly when one of them feels let down. So she formulates her goal. My goal is to let Lisa know how much her cancellation impacted me, to understand what happened from her perspective, and to reaffirm that we can rely on each other. Now look at the position Jessica is in. She is no longer a chaotic storm of anger. She is clear, grounded, and purposeful. She understands her own feelings. She is holding her own story lightly, and she has a clear, constructive goal for the conversation. She can now approach Lisa, not with an accusation, but with a calm, curious, and honest opening. She might call Lisa and say, "Hey, I was really thrown for a loop when you had to cancel on Saturday, and to be honest, my feelings were pretty hurt. I'm also a bit worried about you. Is everything okay?" This opening is honest, vulnerable, and non-accusatory. It is a world away from the angry text she would have sent before. It is an opening that creates the possibility of connection and repair rather than guaranteeing a fight. This internal preparation is your responsibility. It is the unpaid, unseen work that makes a successful relationship possible. To expect another person to navigate the unnavigated chaos of your own mind is unfair and unrealistic. You must do your own work first. You must map your own internal territory before you invite someone else in. It is an act of respect for yourself and for the other person, It is the difference between being the architect of your conversations and being a victim of them. Take the time. Have the conversation with yourself first. It is the single most important investment you can make in the health and success of your relationships. Chapter 4. Setting the stage for success. Time, place, and the first 30 seconds. Imagine for a moment that a loved one needs a delicate and serious surgical procedure. The surgeon, brilliant and highly skilled, bursts into your house during a chaotic family dinner, throws their instruments onto the cluttered table and says, "Right then, let's get this done here and now." You would be horrified. You would call them insane. You would never allow them to proceed. Why? Because you instinctively understand that the success of a delicate procedure depends not only on the skill of the surgeon, but on the environment in which it is performed. It requires preparation. It requires a sterile field. It requires the right lighting, the right tools, and a patient who is calm and ready. You would insist on a proper operating room, a scheduled appointment, and a team that is focused and prepared. A difficult conversation is a form of emotional surgery. You are attempting to carefully excise a problem, a resentment, or a misunderstanding without damaging the healthy tissue of the relationship that surrounds it. And yet, day after day, we commit conversational malpractice. We attempt this delicate surgery on the fly, in the worst possible environments. With the emotional equivalent of rusty, unsterilized tools, we ambush our partners, our friends, and our colleagues, and then we are shocked when the procedure goes horribly wrong, leaving both parties bleeding on the floor. This chapter is about becoming a master of the conversational operating room. It is about understanding a fundamental truth that most people ignore. The context in which you have a conversation is not a minor detail. It is a primary determinant of its success. The what of your conversation is important, but the when, where, and how you begin can make the difference between a breakthrough and a breakdown. We have already done the crucial internal work. You have clarified your feelings, examined your stories, and defined your goals. Now we must build the external environment, the physical and temporal stage that will give your honesty the best possible chance to be heard. To ignore this step is like a farmer planting the best seeds in the world on dry, rocky, unprepared soil. It doesn't matter how good the seeds are. They will not grow. Your well-thought-out words are those seeds. This chapter will teach you how to prepare the soil. Let's begin by examining in painful, excruciating detail the catastrophic cost of getting the context wrong. We must understand the anatomy of a failed conversation so that we can avoid repeating these common, disastrous mistakes. The most common form of conversational malpractice is the ambush. This is when one person, who has been stewing on an issue for hours or even days, decides that the perfect moment to talk is the exact second the other person is least prepared to listen. Consider the just got home from work ambush. Let's watch it unfold with our characters Kevin and Lisa. Kevin has been home all day, growing increasingly frustrated by a conversation they had last night about their upcoming vacation plans, which he feels Lisa dismissed. He has been replaying the conversation in his head, building his case, polishing his arguments. He is primed and ready for battle. The front door opens at 6:30 in the evening. Lisa walks in. She has just spent an hour in bumper-to-bumper traffic after a grueling 9-hour day, where her boss criticized her work on a major project. Her shoulders are tight, her head is pounding, and the only two things on her mind are kicking off her shoes and figuring out what to eat for dinner. She is emotionally and physically depleted. She drops her bag on the floor and sighs. Kevin, seeing his opening, pounces. "We need to talk about the vacation," he says, his voice tight with the day's accumulated resentment. For Kevin, this feels perfectly logical. The issue is at the front of his mind. For Lisa, it is an assault. Her brain, already overloaded and running on fumes, cannot process this new demand. It registers only as an attack. Her internal monologue is a flurry of panic and exhaustion. "What? Now? I just walked in the door. I haven't even taken a breath. I can't deal with this right now. What did I do wrong now?" She doesn't have the resources for an empathetic, collaborative conversation. All she has is her most primitive defense mechanism. "Kevin, for God's sake, can I not even walk in my own house without being attacked? I just had the worst day imaginable, and you jump on me the second I walk in." Of course, this response only proves to Kevin that she is, in fact, dismissive and doesn't care about his feelings, which was his original grievance. He fires back, "See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You never want to talk about anything important. It's always about your day, your stress." The conversation was over before it began. It was doomed from the first sentence, not because of the topic, but because of the timing. Kevin failed to consider his partner's state of mind. He tried to perform surgery on a patient who was in the middle of running a marathon. The result was not healing, it was injury. Then there is the equally disastrous in-public humiliation. We have all seen it. The couple in a restaurant speaking in tense, hushed tones, their smiles frozen on their faces as the waiter approaches. Let's imagine Michael and Sarah. Michael is upset because Sarah made a commitment to her family on a weekend he was hoping they could have to themselves. He chooses to bring this up over dinner at their favorite Italian place. He thinks he is being clever, that the public setting will keep them from yelling. He leans across the table and says, "I'm not happy that you told your sister we'd come over on Sunday without even talking to me." Sarah feels a hot flush of shame. Her eyes dart around the restaurant. Can the couple at the next table hear them? Is the waiter listening? She is now dealing with two threats, the conflict with her partner and the social threat of being seen arguing in public. Her capacity to engage with the actual issue is cut in half. She cannot be vulnerable. She cannot be fully honest. She cannot risk crying in front of strangers. Her only goal is to shut the conversation down as quickly as possible to minimize the public embarrassment. "Can we not do this here?" she hisses back, her voice barely a whisper. Michael interprets this as avoidance. "So when are we supposed to talk about it, Sarah? You're always putting it off." The conflict escalates in these tense, strangled whispers, poisoning their meal and resolving absolutely nothing. The public setting was not a safety net. It was a cage. It prevented any possibility of authentic, vulnerable communication, ensuring that the issue would be left to fester. Now, with an added layer of public shame, we must also talk about the late-night exhaustion trap. This is a common one for couples, especially those with young children. The entire day is a whirlwind of work, chores, and childcare. The only time it is quiet is after 11 o'clock at night. Both partners are bone-tired, their bodies and minds screaming for sleep. This is when one of them, unable to bear the weight of an unspoken issue for another day, decides to talk. "Are you awake? I need to talk to you about our credit card bill." This is the biological equivalent of trying to perform complex calculus after drinking 3 glasses of wine. It's a terrible idea. Scientific research in chronobiology and cognitive psychology is very clear on this. When you are sleep-deprived and fatigued, your prefrontal cortex, the sophisticated, rational, empathetic part of your brain, essentially goes offline. It checks out for the night. The part of your brain that takes over is the amygdala, the primitive, emotional fight-or-flight alarm system. You are, quite literally, less intelligent, less empathetic, and more emotionally reactive when you are tired. You have less access to your best self. Late-night conversations are notorious for spiraling out of control, for becoming circular and irrational, for dredging up old issues, and for ending in tears and exhaustion with no resolution. You are simply not equipped to handle emotional surgery when you are running on empty. You are far more likely to amputate a limb than to heal a wound. Finally, we have the most modern and perhaps most destructive venue for difficult conversations: the text message. In our world of instant communication, it is incredibly tempting to try to resolve conflict with our thumbs. It feels safer. There is a screen between you and the other person's reaction. You can carefully craft your sentences, but this perceived safety is a dangerous illusion. Texting is a communication medium that is stripped of all the essential data that makes human connection possible. It has no tone of voice. It has no facial expressions. It has no body language. It has no real-time feedback loop. A simple 3-word sentence like, "That's fine, whatever," can be interpreted in at least 10 different ways. Is it genuinely fine? Is it passive-aggressive? Is it sarcastic? Is it angry? Is it resigned? The reader has no way of knowing, so they will project their own current emotional state and their own story onto the words. If they are already feeling insecure, they will read the most negative possible interpretation. An attempt to resolve a conflict via text is like trying to describe a sunset to someone using only the words yes and no. You are guaranteed to fail. It is a breeding ground for misunderstandings that can take days of real face-to-face conversation to untangle. Rule number 1 of the conversational operating room: serious emotional surgery is never, ever performed via text message. Now that we have thoroughly examined the anatomy of failure, let's build the blueprint for success. How do we choose the right time and place? The answer is not about finding some mythical perfect moment. It is about co-creating a dedicated, respectful space. The process begins with what I call the invitation. You must never, ever ambush someone. You must ask for their permission to have the conversation. This is one of the most respectful and powerful things you can do, and it dramatically increases your chances of success. It honors the other person's autonomy. It communicates that you value their time and their emotional capacity. It gives them a moment to switch out of their default mode and into a more focused, receptive mindset. It transforms the conversation from a surprise attack into a scheduled, collaborative meeting. The invitation has a simple formula, and you should learn to make it a natural part of your communication toolkit. It sounds something like this: "Hey, there's something on my mind that's important to me, and I'd love to talk it through with you. Is now a good time, or could we find 15 minutes later today, this week?" Let's break down why this is so effective. First, "there's something on my mind that's important to me" is a gentle, non-accusatory flag. It signals the seriousness of the topic without creating panic. Compare it to the terrifying phrase, "we need to talk," which instantly sends a jolt of anxiety through the listener's nervous system. Second, "I'd love to talk it through with you" reinforces the collaborative us versus the problem mindset. It's not, "I need to talk at you." It's, "I want to work on this with you." Third, and most critically, "is now a good time, or can we find another time?" is the key that unlocks everything. It gives the other person control. It respects their state of mind. It makes them a partner in the process of setting the stage. Now, you must be prepared for their answer. If they say, "Sure, now is a great time," and the environment is appropriate, you can proceed. But what if they say, "Actually, now is not great, I'm in the middle of something"? This is not a rejection. This is a victory. You should celebrate this response. It means the other person is taking your request seriously. It means they are self-aware enough to know they are not in the right headspace to give you their full attention. It means your system is working. Your response should be one of appreciation and collaboration. "No problem at all, I totally get it. When would be a better time for you? Maybe after the kids are in bed tonight or sometime this weekend." You are now scheduling an appointment for emotional surgery, which is exactly what you should be doing. There is a tricky scenario you must be prepared for. Sometimes the other person will say, "No, just tell me now. What is it?" They might say this even if they are clearly stressed or distracted. This often comes from a place of anxiety. They would rather deal with the discomfort now than have it hanging over their head. In this moment, you must be the calm, confident leader of the conversation. You must hold the boundary for the sake of the relationship. You can say something respectful but firm, like, "I really appreciate you being willing to talk now, but this is really important to me, and I want to make sure we both have the space to talk about it without being rushed or distracted. It's nothing terrible, I promise. I just want to honor the conversation. Could we please talk after dinner? I can give you my full attention then, and you can give me yours." You are not being difficult. You are being the guardian of the conversational space. You are protecting the relationship from the predictable failure of a rushed, ill-timed conversation. Once you have scheduled your appointment, you must choose the right environment. The ideal environment has two key characteristics. It is private, and it is neutral. Privacy is obvious. Vulnerable conversations cannot happen with an audience. Neutrality is more subtle. It is often a mistake to have a difficult conversation in a location that is already emotionally charged. Trying to talk about financial stress in your home office, surrounded by bills, can heighten the anxiety. Trying to talk about a lack of intimacy while sitting in the bedroom can feel incredibly loaded and unsafe. Sometimes, changing the scenery can change the dynamic entirely. A living room couch can be a good, neutral space. Even better, consider a location that encourages a collaborative physical posture. This brings us to one of the most effective, yet underutilized communication techniques, the walk and talk. Taking a walk together in a quiet park or a peaceful neighborhood is a brilliant strategy for several reasons. First, the act of walking side by side, looking forward in the same direction, is a physical manifestation of the us versus the problem mindset. You are literally moving forward together. It is far less confrontational than sitting directly across from each other, which can feel like an interrogation. Second, the gentle physical activity helps to burn off excess nervous energy. It can calm the jitters and keep you from feeling trapped. Third, the lack of sustained, intense eye contact can actually make it easier to be vulnerable. You can look at the path ahead, at the trees, at the sky, while you are saying something difficult, which can feel less intimidating than looking directly into the other person's eyes. You are giving each other space to think and speak without the pressure of a constant visual connection. If a walk is not possible, even sitting side by side on a couch or in a car can be more effective than a face-to-face, across-the-table setup. You are subtly signaling with your bodies that you are allies on the same journey. Now the stage is set. You have an agreed-upon time. You have a private, neutral location. The moment has arrived. The next 30 seconds are the most critical of the entire interaction. The way you begin the conversation will set the tone for everything that follows. The renowned relationship researcher Dr. John Gottman has studied couples for decades, and one of his most powerful findings is what he calls the harsh startup. He can predict with stunning accuracy the long-term success of a relationship based on how the first few minutes of a conflict conversation go. A harsh startup, which is an opening that is critical, accusatory, or filled with contempt, immediately puts the listener into a defensive, flooded state from which they are unlikely to recover. A gentle startup, on the other hand, creates an atmosphere of safety and respect, making a positive outcome not only possible, but likely. You have spent all this time preparing the soil. The gentle opener is how you carefully place the seed in the ground. Let's look at the anatomy of a terrible opener, a harsh startup. These are the conversation killers. We need to talk. As we've discussed, this is the universal signal for you are in trouble, and it triggers immediate panic. I can't believe you forgot to pay the electric bill. This is a direct accusation. It starts with blame, which guarantees a defensive response. You know what your problem is, you're completely selfish. This is a character assassination. You are not addressing a behavior, you are attacking their very identity. Here we go again, you always do this. This combines a sense of hopelessness with the verbal bomb of always, which is never true and serves only to escalate the conflict. All of these openers are born from the battle mindset. They are opening salvos in a war, not invitations to a collaboration. The gentle opener, by contrast, is a carefully architected statement designed to do the opposite. It is designed to lower defenses, affirm the relationship, and create a safe space for honesty. It has a clear four-part formula that you can learn and adapt to any situation. Part 1. Affirm the relationship and state your good intentions. You begin by reminding both of you what is at stake and that your goal is connection, not destruction. This is the foundation of safety. Examples: our friendship means the world to me, and that's why I want to talk about this. I value our working relationship so much, and I want to make sure we are on the same page. I love you, and I want us to be a team, which is why I need to bring something up. Part 2. State the issue as your experience. This is where you use the I statements you practiced in the last chapter. You are not stating an objective truth. You are sharing your personal, subjective reality. This is unarguable. Examples: I've been feeling a bit disconnected from you lately. I'm feeling worried about our budget this month. I felt hurt by the comment you made at the party last night. Part 3. Externalize the problem. This is where you connect your feeling to the leak in the canoe, the external, solvable issue. You are linking your internal experience to a shared external problem. Examples: And I think it might be because we haven't had much quality time together. And I think our system for tracking spending might need an update. And I want to understand what you meant by it so it doesn't create a misunderstanding between us. Part 4. Make a clear invitation to collaborate. You end by explicitly asking them to join you in solving the problem. Examples. I was hoping we could talk about how to get back on track. I'd love to put our heads together and come up with a plan. Can you help me understand your perspective? Let's put it all together and see the difference. Imagine you need to talk to your partner about them being on their phone all the time during dinner. The harsh startup. Can you get off your phone for once? You are completely addicted. It's like having dinner with a zombie. The gentle startup, using the formula, hey, I love our dinners together, and I really value that time to connect with you. Part 1. Lately, I've been feeling a bit lonely and ignored during our meals. Part 2. And I think it's because we've both gotten into the habit of having our phones out. Part 3. I was hoping we could talk about creating a new rule, like a no phones at the table rule, so we can be more present with each other. Part 4. Can you feel the difference? The first one is an attack that will lead to a fight. The second one is a loving, respectful, and clear invitation to solve a shared problem. It is a work of art. It is a masterful piece of emotional surgery. This is not about being inauthentic or using a manipulative script. It is about being intentional. It is about being wise. It is about understanding that your important words deserve a carefully prepared stage on which to be spoken. You wouldn't throw a diamond ring at someone from across a busy street. You would create a special moment. You would choose your time and place. You would present it with care. Your honest feelings, your vulnerabilities, your needs. These are more precious than diamonds. They deserve the same level of care. You are the architect of your conversations. You have the power to stop the ambushes, to end the late-night fights, to escape the public humiliations. You have the power to build a stage of safety and respect, a stage where real connection is not just possible, but probable. Begin with the invitation. Choose your time and place with wisdom, and master the gentle opener. This is how you prepare the soil. This is how you give your relationships the best possible chance to grow. Chapter 5. Listen like a detective, not a lawyer. If you were to ask 100 people what the most important skill in communication is, the vast majority would say something about speaking. They would talk about being articulate, persuasive, or clear. They would focus on what to say and how to say it. And they would be profoundly wrong. The single most important, most powerful, and most transformative skill in any human interaction is not speaking. It is listening. This is a truth that is so simple and so obvious that we almost completely ignore it. We live in a world that is obsessed with broadcasting. We are all walking, talking radio stations, desperately transmitting our own signals, our own opinions, our own stories, our own needs. But almost no one is tuned in to receive. We have forgotten how to listen. The brilliant author Stephen Covey said it best. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. This one sentence perfectly captures the deafness of modern conversation. We are not listening. We are reloading. We are waiting for the other person to take a breath so we can jump in and fire our next thought. This chapter is about dismantling that habit. It is about learning to listen not with the intent to reply, but with the sole all-consuming intent to understand. It is about undergoing a radical mindset shift, from listening like a lawyer to listening like a detective. This shift will change not only the outcome of your difficult conversations, but the very nature of your relationships. To understand this shift, we must first deeply explore the two opposing mindsets. Let's start with the one we all know so well, the lawyer mindset. Imagine a lawyer in a courtroom. What is their job? Their job is not to understand the witness. Their job is to win the case. They listen with a very specific filter. They are listening for flaws. They are listening for inconsistencies. They are listening for weaknesses in the other person's argument that they can exploit. They are engaged in a cross-examination. Their questions are not born of curiosity. They are weapons designed to trap the witness, to poke holes in their story, and to discredit them in front of the jury. The lawyer enters the conversation with their conclusion already firmly in place. They are not seeking the truth. They are seeking to prove their version of the truth. This is precisely how most of us listen during a conflict. We put on our lawyer robes. The other person starts speaking, and our brain immediately kicks into cross-examination mode. We are not listening to the content of their words. We are listening for the opportunity to interrupt, to correct, to contradict. Our internal monologue is a frantic legal strategy session. That's not true. Last Tuesday you said the exact opposite. He's exaggerating. It wasn't that bad. She's trying to make me feel guilty, but I'm going to bring up what she did last month. We pounce on any small factual inaccuracy. You said we were late at 7:30, but it was actually 7:40, so your whole point is invalid. We listen with our defenses on high alert, our rebuttals locked and loaded. When we listen like a lawyer, we make the other person feel like they are on the witness stand. They feel interrogated, judged, and unsafe. They learn very quickly that being vulnerable with us is dangerous. So they shut down, they become defensive. They stop sharing the very information we need to solve the problem. Listening like a lawyer is a guaranteed way to lose your case in the court of human connection. You might win a minor point, but you will lose the relationship. Now let's consider the alternative, the detective mindset. Imagine a great detective arriving at the scene of a complex mystery. What is their state of mind? It is one of pure, unadulterated curiosity. The detective has no pre-existing theories. They have no agenda other than to discover the truth. Every single detail is a potential clue. The way a glass is overturned, a strange scuff mark on the floor, the emotional state of a witness. It is all valuable data. The detective's primary tool is the humble, open-ended question. Tell me what you saw. Walk me through the events of that evening. What was that like for you? The detective does not judge or argue with the witness. They know the witness holds a piece of the puzzle, and their job is to create an atmosphere of such safety and trust that the witness feels comfortable sharing everything they know. The detective listens with their whole being, not just for the words, but for the emotions behind the words, for what is not being said. They listen with humility, knowing that they do not have all the answers. They are not there to prove a point. They are there to understand a story. This is the mindset you must bring to your difficult conversations. You must take off the lawyer's robes and put on the detective's trench coat. You must approach the other person not as an opponent to be defeated, but as a rich, complex, and fascinating mystery to be understood. You must genuinely believe that they hold crucial clues that you need to solve the puzzle of your shared problem. Your goal is not to win an argument. Your goal is to gather intelligence. Your goal is to be able to say at the end of their turn, "I think I understand. I can now see the world through your eyes, even if I don't agree with everything I see." This is the holy grail of listening. It is a state of such profound empathy that it can dissolve conflict like water on salt. When a person feels truly, deeply understood, their need to fight evaporates. They feel seen, they feel validated, and only then do they become capable of listening to you. This all sounds wonderful in theory, but how do we actually do it? Our brains are so deeply grooved in the lawyerly habit of listening to rebut. We need a practical, actionable toolkit. We need to learn the specific skills of the detective. Let's break them down, one by one. These are the tools that will transform you from a deaf broadcaster into a master listener. The first, most counterintuitive tool in the detective's toolkit is silence. We are terrified of silence. In a conversation, a pause of more than a few seconds feels awkward and uncomfortable, and we rush to fill it with words, any words. But for the detective, silence is not a void. It is a space. It is a powerful tool for encouraging the other person to go deeper. When you ask a question and the other person gives a brief answer, your instinct is to immediately ask another question or offer your own opinion. The detective resists this urge. They simply wait. They hold the silence for an extra 3, 5, even 10 seconds. It is in this small pocket of silence that the magic happens. The other person, also feeling the pull of the silence, will often continue. They will elaborate. They will say the thing they were not going to say. They will find the words for a deeper truth. It's as if their brain says, "Oh, they are still listening, they must really want to know more." Silence communicates patience. It communicates respect. It says, "I am not rushing you. Your thoughts are important. Take your time." The next time someone is speaking to you, try this experiment. When they finish a thought, silently count to 5 in your head before you respond. You will be astonished at how often they will use that space to give you more valuable information. You will learn more by saying nothing than you ever could by talking. The second tool is the detective's primary weapon, the open-ended, curious question. A closed question is one that can be answered with a yes, a no, or a single piece of data. Are you angry? Did you take out the trash? Was the meeting at 3 o'clock? These questions shut down conversation. An open-ended question is one that invites a story. It cannot be answered with a single word. It requires the other person to reflect, to explain, to share their experience. What's on your mind? How did that situation make you feel? Walk me through your thinking on that decision. These questions open up the conversation. They are the keys that unlock the other person's world. Your goal as a detective is to build a toolkit of these powerful, open-ended questions. Here are some of the most effective ones you can use. Tell me more about that. This is perhaps the most powerful four-word phrase in human communication. It is a pure, simple invitation for more information, with no judgment attached. What was that like for you? This question focuses on their emotional experience, which is often the most important data you can gather. What's your biggest concern here? This helps you get to the heart of the matter, to understand what is truly at stake for them. Help me understand your perspective on this. This is a beautiful, humble question. It positions them as the expert on their own experience and you as the eager student. What do you think we should do? This question, asked after you have listened to their side, is a powerful way to shift into collaborative problem solving. You should also be aware of the questions to avoid. The most dangerous one is the word why. Why did you do that? Or why do you feel that way? While it seems like a curious question, it often lands on the listener as an accusation. The implied meaning is often, justify your behavior to me because it seems wrong. It puts them on the defensive. You can get the same information with a gentler framing. Instead of, why did you do that? Try, what was your thinking behind that decision? Instead of, why do you feel that way? Try, I'm interested to hear more about what's causing you to feel that way. You are asking for the story, not demanding a justification. The third tool in the toolkit is a technique called paraphrasing or reflective listening. This is the skill that will make the other person feel more heard than anything else you can do. Paraphrasing is not simply repeating their words back to them like a parrot. It is listening to their story and then summarizing the essence of what you heard, in your own words, to check for understanding. It's like holding up a mirror to them and saying, is this what you look like? Is this what you mean? The formula for paraphrasing is simple. It usually starts with a phrase like, so, if I'm hearing you correctly, or it sounds like you're saying, or let me make sure I've got this right. You're feeling, let's see this in action. Imagine your colleague says to you, I'm so fed up. The boss just dumped this huge new project on my desk. It's due on Friday and I'm already swamped. I don't see how I can possibly get it all done, and I feel like he has no respect for my workload. The lawyer's response would be to argue or problem solve. Well, did you tell him you were busy? You should just work late. The detective's response would be to paraphrase, so, let me see if I understand. It sounds like you're feeling incredibly overwhelmed and also a bit disrespected because you were given an impossible deadline without any regard for the work you're already doing. Is that right? This simple act of paraphrasing performs two miracles. First, it makes your colleague feel a profound sense of relief. It is the feeling of being seen, of being understood. A voice in their head says, yes, they get it. I'm not crazy. Their defensive walls will instantly begin to crumble. The second miracle is that it gives them a chance to correct you. They might say, well, it's not that I feel disrespected exactly. It's more that I feel incompetent. I'm scared I'm going to fail and let everyone down. This is a gift. You thought the problem was about respect, but it's actually about fear of failure. Your paraphrase, even though it was slightly off, allowed them to clarify their own feelings and give you more accurate data. You would have tried to solve the wrong problem. Paraphrasing ensures you are both looking at the same map. The fourth and final tool is perhaps the most advanced. It is the skill of acknowledging and naming their feelings, which is also known as validation. This is where many people get stuck because they operate under a terrible misconception. They believe that to validate someone's feeling, they have to agree with their facts. This is completely untrue. Validation is not agreement. Validation is simply acknowledging that given their perspective and their story, their feeling makes sense. It is recognizing their emotional reaction as a legitimate human response. You can completely disagree with their interpretation of events and still validate their emotional experience. When you fail to validate feelings, you get stuck in a pointless argument over facts. Let's say your partner says, "I'm so angry. You said you would be home at 6 and you didn't get here until 7. You completely ruined our dinner plans." The lawyer's response is to argue the facts. It was not 7. It was 6:40. And the traffic was insane. It's not my fault. You're overreacting. You are now in a fight about the clock and the traffic. You are missing the point entirely. The point is not the time. The point is the feeling. The detective's response is to validate the feeling first. "Wow, you're right. I was much later than I said I would be. I can completely see why you are angry and frustrated. It makes perfect sense that you would feel like I ruined the plans you made. I'm so sorry for that." Can you feel how disarming that is? You are not agreeing that you are a terrible person. You are simply agreeing that their anger is a reasonable response to the situation. You have validated their reality. Only after you have done this, after they feel heard and validated, can you move on to explaining your side. "The traffic was absolutely unbelievable, and my boss kept me late. But that's my problem, not yours. I should have called to let you know. Let's figure out what we can do about dinner now." You can create a conversational superpower by combining paraphrasing and validation. It is the ultimate 1-2 punch for dissolving conflict. Let's go back to the colleague with the new project. The power combo response would be, "So it sounds like you're feeling completely overwhelmed because of this impossible deadline," paraphrase, "and honestly, that makes perfect sense. I would be feeling incredibly stressed and anxious if I were in your shoes," validation. In that one statement, you have made your colleague feel heard, understood, and validated. You have created a powerful bond of trust and safety. You are now in a perfect position to move into collaborative problem solving, if that's what they want. Of course, listening like a detective is not always easy. There will be roadblocks. The most common one is the overwhelming urge to defend yourself when you feel you are being unfairly accused. Your lawyer brain will be screaming, "That's not true. Let me tell you my side." You must learn to be disciplined. You must make a promise to yourself that you will give the other person the gift of your full, undivided, curious listening first. You will get your turn. A conversation is not a monologue, but you must let them empty their cup completely before you can expect them to have any room to receive what you have to pour into yours. Listen first. Listen fully. Then, and only then, speak. Another roadblock is when the other person is factually wrong. They may have their dates mixed up or misremember what someone said. The temptation to jump in and correct them is almost irresistible. No, the meeting was on Tuesday, not Wednesday. Do not do it. When you interrupt someone to correct a minor fact, what you are communicating is, "I am not listening to your story. I am listening for your mistakes." It completely derails the emotional flow of the conversation. Listen for the emotional truth behind the factual error. Their feeling is always real, even if their data is flawed. Let them tell their whole story. You can gently clarify the facts later, if it is even necessary. Often the minor facts don't matter at all. What matters is the emotion. The final roadblock is your own emotional state. What if what they are saying is so painful or triggering that you feel completely overwhelmed? What if you are so flooded with your own anger or hurt that you are simply incapable of listening? In this moment, trying to force yourself to listen like a detective is inauthentic and will probably fail. The most advanced and respectful move you can make is to call a timeout. You must use an I statement and take responsibility for your own state. You know what? What you are saying is incredibly important, and I want to be able to hear it fully. But right now I'm feeling so overwhelmed that I can't listen properly. Can we please take a 10-minute break? I need to clear my head so I can come back and give you the attention you deserve. This is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of profound strength and self-awareness. It is the ultimate act of honoring the conversation by refusing to participate in it when you are not at your best. Learning to listen like a detective is a lifelong practice. It is a muscle that you must build through conscious, deliberate effort. It requires you to silence your own ego, to quiet your own inner lawyer, and to approach every conversation with a humble and open heart. But the rewards are immeasurable. To offer someone the gift of your pure, undivided attention is one of the most profound acts of love and respect you can perform. The writer and theologian Paul Tillich once suggested that the first duty of love is to listen. When you make someone feel truly heard, you are not just gathering information. You are healing a wound. You are building a bridge. You are creating the kind of deep, resilient, and authentic connection that every human being craves. To be listened to is so close to being loved that for most people, the difference is impossible to tell. Forget about being a more persuasive speaker. Aspire to be a more curious listener. It is the secret to changing not just your conversations, but your world. Chapter 6. How to speak your truth without starting a war. There is a single word in the English language that is responsible for starting more arguments, creating more defensiveness, and destroying more connections than any other. It is a word so small, so common that we use it 100 times a day without considering its immense power. It is a word that, when used in a difficult conversation, acts like a verbal finger pointed directly at the other person's chest. It is an accusation, a judgment, and a conversational bomb all rolled into one. That word is you. You did this. You made me feel this way. You are the problem. The moment this word leaves your lips in a moment of conflict, the possibility of a collaborative, understanding conversation dies. You have just declared war. You have just switched the interaction from a potential dialogue to a certain debate. A debate in which the other person's primary goal is no longer to understand you, but to defend themselves from your attack. This chapter is about disarming that bomb. It is about learning how to express your deepest truths, your most painful hurts, and your most important needs in a way that doesn't trigger a war, but instead invites connection. We are going to learn how to replace the destructive power of you with the radical relationship-building power of I. We are going to learn how to master the art of the I statement, a communication tool so profound and effective that it can feel like a superpower. Let's first conduct a thorough and unflinching autopsy of the you statement. We must understand precisely why it is so toxic before we can appreciate the elegance of the alternative. When you begin a statement in a conflict with the word you are doing several destructive things at once. First and foremost, you are assigning blame. You are making the other person the sole cause of the problem and your unhappiness. You forgot to take out the trash is not just a statement of fact. In a tense moment, it is an indictment that means the problem of the trash is 100% your fault. The human brain is hardwired with a powerful aversion to being blamed. It triggers our most primitive survival instincts. When we feel blamed, we feel threatened. The rational, empathetic part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, begins to shut down. The amygdala, our internal alarm system, takes over. It is the battle mindset we talked about in Chapter 2, activated in a split second. The listener is no longer your partner or your friend. They are the accused, and their only rational response is to mount a defense. Their brain is not asking, is there truth in what they are saying? It is asking, how can I prove them wrong? How can I defend myself? How can I counterattack? This leads to the second destructive outcome of the you statement. It is a direct invitation to an argument about facts, which is almost never the real issue. When you say, you were an hour late, the other person's lawyer brain will immediately pounce on the data. An hour? It was not an hour. It was 42 minutes, and you know perfectly well that traffic was a nightmare. You are now no longer talking about the core issue, which is the feeling of being disrespected or unimportant. You are in a ridiculous, pointless argument about the clock. When you say you never help with the kids, their brain will scan its memory banks for a single piece of counter-evidence. Never. I gave them a bath on Tuesday. I helped with homework last night. You are completely exaggerating. You are no longer talking about your feeling of being overwhelmed and unsupported. You are in a factual debate over the definition of the word never. You statements lure you away from the heart of the matter, the emotions, and into the weeds of pointless factual disputes where no one ever wins and both people leave feeling unheard. The third and perhaps most damaging aspect of the you statement is that it often morphs from a criticism of a specific behavior into a global judgment of the other person's character. We move from what they did to who they are. You left your dirty dishes in the sink quickly becomes, you are a slob. You forgot our anniversary becomes, you are a selfish and inconsiderate person. You interrupted me becomes, you are an arrogant narcissist who only cares about the sound of your own voice. These are character assassinations. You are taking a single data point and using it to write a damning biography of the other person. There is almost no way for someone to respond to a character attack without becoming intensely defensive or shutting down completely. You have not given them feedback on a behavior they can change. You have delivered a verdict on their very soul. You have left them no room for nuance, no room for explanation, and no room for repair. You have simply judged and condemned them. This is not how you build a connection. This is how you create an enemy. So what is the alternative? If you is the poison, I is the antidote. The I statement is a model of communication that flips the entire dynamic on its head. Instead of pointing the finger of blame outward, you turn the lens of observation inward. You stop talking about the other person and you start talking about yourself. You share your own experience, your own feelings, your own reality. And here is the magic. Your personal experience is unarguable. If you say you are inconsiderate, the other person can argue with that judgment all day long. But if you say, I feel hurt, they cannot argue with your feeling. They do not live inside your body. They do not have access to your emotional truth. Your feeling is your feeling. It is a statement of fact about your internal world. By starting with I, you are not launching an attack. You are offering a piece of vulnerable personal information. You are opening a window into your own heart. And an open window is an invitation to look inside, not a reason to build a wall. Mastering the I statement is a skill, and like any skill, it has a structure. Once you learn the structure, you can practice it until it becomes second nature. The most effective I statement has 3 distinct parts. Some people add a 4th part, a request. But for now, we will focus on the core 3 components that are essential for expressing your truth without triggering defensiveness. The formula is, when X happens, a specific objective description of the behavior, I feel Y, your primary vulnerable emotion, because Z, the concrete impact the behavior has on you or the story you tell yourself. Let's break down each of these components in detail, because the power lies in getting each part right. Part 1. When X happens. This is the foundation of the entire statement, and it is the part where most people make their first mistake. This part must be a clean, objective, non-judgmental description of a specific behavior. Think of it like a camera. Your job is to describe only what the camera would have seen or heard. There can be no emotional language, no assumptions about motive, and no character judgments in this part. It must be pure data. This is crucial because it gives you a piece of solid, factual ground to stand on that the other person cannot easily dispute. Let's look at some examples of getting this wrong versus getting it right. The situation. Your partner has been looking at their phone while you're trying to tell them about your day. The wrong way, judgmental and accusatory. When you ignore me and act like your phone is more important than I am. This is not what a camera saw. It is your negative interpretation. It is a you statement in disguise. The right way, objective and behavioral. When we are talking and I see you looking at your phone, this is pure data. A camera would have recorded you speaking and your partner's eyes on their phone. It is a simple, observable fact. The situation. Your friend made a joke about your new haircut that you found hurtful. The wrong way assumes motive. When you try to embarrass me in front of our friends, you are mind reading. You are assuming their intention was to embarrass you, which will immediately put them on the defensive. The right way, behavioral. When you made that joke about my hair in front of the group last night, this is exactly what happened. It is a specific event that you can both remember. The situation. Your boss presented your idea in a meeting as their own. The wrong way, global and vague. When you constantly steal my ideas, and the word constantly is an exaggeration that invites an argument. Steal is a loaded, judgmental word. The right way, specific and neutral. In the marketing meeting this morning, when you presented the concept for the new campaign, this is specific, professional, and fact-based. Getting this first part right is 90% of the battle. You must strip out all the blame, all the judgment, all the mind reading. You are simply stating the observable fact. That is the trigger for your feelings. You are setting a neutral, factual stage for the more emotional parts to come. If you can do this, the other person's defenses will remain low, and they will be far more likely to hear what comes next. Part 2. I feel why. This is the heart of the I statement. This is where you bravely share your own emotional truth. As we discussed in Chapter 3, it is essential here to dig underneath the secondary emotion of anger and identify the primary, more vulnerable feeling that is truly driving you. Sharing your anger might feel powerful, but sharing your hurt, your fear, or your disappointment is what truly builds connection. It is an act of vulnerability that signals to the other person that you are not there to fight but to be understood. To do this effectively, you need a rich vocabulary of feeling words. We often get stuck with mad, sad, or glad, but our emotional lives are far more complex. Here is a short list of powerful, vulnerable feeling words you can use in this part of the statement. Instead of just angry, you might feel frustrated, resentful, irritated, provoked. Instead of just sad, you might feel hurt, disappointed, lonely, disconnected, discouraged, heartbroken. Instead of just anxious, you might feel scared, worried, insecure, overwhelmed, inadequate, vulnerable. You might also feel disrespected, unimportant, invisible, taken for granted, misunderstood, confused. The key is to choose the word that most accurately reflects your inner experience. Let's continue our examples. The phone situation. I feel hurt and disconnected. This is so much more powerful and informative than I feel pissed off. It tells your partner about the emotional impact, not just your angry reaction. The haircut joke. I feel embarrassed and a little bit hurt. Admitting embarrassment is vulnerable, and it is far more likely to elicit an empathetic response than an angry accusation. The boss situation. I feel discouraged and invisible. This communicates the profound professional impact of your boss's action in a way that I feel ripped off simply cannot. By naming your vulnerable emotion, you are giving the other person a precious gift. You are giving them a clear window into your soul. You are trusting them with your authentic feelings. This act of trust is a powerful de-escalator of conflict. It is very difficult to continue attacking someone who has just told you, with genuine vulnerability, that they feel hurt or scared. The natural human response to such a statement is empathy, not aggression. Part 3, gibt es because sie. This final part of the statement is the connective tissue. It is where you explain the link between the other person's behavior and your feeling. It helps them understand why you feel the way you do. This is not about blaming them again. It is about revealing your inner thought process, your story, or the concrete consequence of their action. This is the part that builds empathy. It allows the other person to walk a mile in your shoes. There are two main ways to construct this because clause. You can explain the concrete, tangible impact of the behavior, or you can share the story you told yourself. Explaining the tangible impact, the boss situation. Because I spent weeks working on that concept, and I was hoping it would be an opportunity for me to demonstrate my value to the team. This clearly and professionally explains the consequence. Your boss now understands what was at stake for you. A situation with a chronically late friend. When you arrive 30 minutes late for our dinner reservation aus X, I feel anxious and frustrated. Why? Because I have to sit at the table alone, and I worry that we will lose our table, Z. This is a clear, logical explanation of the impact. Sharing the story you told yourself. The phone situation. Because the story I tell myself in that moment is that what I'm saying isn't interesting to you, and that you'd rather be connecting with someone else. This is incredibly powerful. You are not saying, "You think I'm boring." You are taking ownership of your story. The story I tell myself is, this allows the other person to see inside your head and understand your interpretation, and it gives them a perfect opportunity to correct it. They can say, "Oh my God, no, that's not the story at all. I was just checking a work email I was worried about. Please, tell me again. I'm listening." The haircut joke. "Because I'm already feeling a bit insecure about trying a new style, and I value your opinion so much." This reveals your vulnerability and explains why their specific words had such a big impact. Now, let's put all three parts together and create some powerful relationship-building I statements. The full phone statement. When we are talking and I see you looking at your phone, I feel hurt and disconnected because the story I tell myself is that what I'm saying isn't interesting to you. The full haircut joke statement. When you made that joke about my hair in front of the group last night, I felt embarrassed and a little bit hurt because I'm already feeling a bit insecure about trying a new style, and I value your opinion so much. The full boss statement. In the marketing meeting this morning, when you presented the concept for the new campaign, I felt discouraged and invisible because I spent weeks working on that concept, and I was hoping it would be an opportunity for me to demonstrate my value to the team. Compare these full statements to their you statement equivalents. You're always on your phone and you don't care about me. You're a jerk for making fun of me. You stole my idea, you thief. The difference is not just tactical, it is the difference between a conversation that is designed to connect and a conversation that is designed to destroy. So of course, using I statements is not a magic spell that guarantees the other person will respond perfectly, but it dramatically increases the odds. It is about taking 100% responsibility for your side of the communication equation. However, there are some common traps to avoid. The most common is what I call the fake I statement. This is when you use the words "I feel," but you follow them up with a you judgment. It is a you statement wearing an I statement costume. For example, "I feel that you are not trying hard enough," or "I feel like you don't respect me." These are not feelings. These are thoughts. They are judgments about the other person. A real feeling is a single word: hurt, angry, scared, happy. If your "I feel" sentence contains the word "that" or "like," it is a good sign you are about to share a thought, not a feeling. A better way to phrase the second example would be, "When you don't ask for my opinion on major decisions, I feel unimportant and disrespected." See the difference? The first is a vague accusation. The second is a clear, actionable I statement. The other crucial factor in delivering an I statement is your non-verbal communication. If you deliver a perfectly constructed, vulnerable I statement with a sarcastic tone of voice, clenched fists, and a contemptuous roll of the eyes, it will not be received as an invitation to connect. It will be received as an attack. Your tone and your body language must be congruent with your words. You are trying to convey vulnerability and a genuine desire to be understood. Your posture should be open, your tone should be calm and sincere. Remember, you have done the work in the previous chapters. You have managed your own feelings. You have examined your own story. You have clarified your own goals. You are not coming into this conversation hot. You're coming in with a cool head and a warm heart. Your nonverbals should reflect that preparation. So let's do a final workshop. Let's take a common, difficult scenario and build an I statement from scratch using all the principles we have learned. The scenario. Your partner promised to do the grocery shopping on their way home from work, but they forgot. The fridge is empty, and you have nothing to make for dinner for the family. You are tired and angry. Step 1. The old way. The you statement attack. "I can't believe you. You forgot the groceries again? You are so unreliable. Now what are we supposed to eat for dinner? You never think about anyone but yourself." This is a guaranteed recipe for a huge fight. Step 2. The new way. The internal preparation from Chapter 3. What am I feeling? My first feeling is anger. But underneath that, I feel overwhelmed because now I have to solve the dinner problem. I feel unimportant because my request was forgotten. I feel a bit helpless and unsupported. What is the story I'm telling myself? He forgot because he doesn't care about my time or the needs of the family. He is selfish. Is this the only story? No. Another story is, he had an incredibly stressful day at work, and he was so distracted and exhausted that this important task simply slipped his mind. Another story. He got a call from his mother about a family emergency and was completely preoccupied. I don't know the real story. My job is to be curious. What do I actually want? I want to punish him. No, that's not my best self. What I really want is for us to be a team. I want to be able to rely on him. I want to solve the dinner problem together. Step 3. Constructing the I statement. Chapter 6. Part 1. When X happens. When I get home from work and realize the groceries weren't picked up after we had planned for them to be specific, behavioral, non-judgmental. Part 2. I feel why. I feel overwhelmed and unsupported. Vulnerable primary emotions. Part 3. Because Z. Because I'm already tired, and now I have to figure out a whole new plan for dinner for the family. Explains the concrete impact. Step 4. The final delivery. You take a deep breath. You find a calm moment. You approach your partner with a sincere, non-aggressive tone. Hey, can we talk for a second? When I got home and realized the groceries weren't picked up after we had planned for them to be, I felt really overwhelmed and unsupported because I'm already so tired, and now I have to figure out a whole new plan for dinner for the family. This statement is a world away from the initial accusation. It is honest, it is vulnerable, it is clear. It does not attack your partner's character. It simply explains the impact of the situation on you. It is infinitely more likely to be met with an apology and an offer of help. Oh my God, I am so sorry. I completely spaced. Let me handle it. I will go out right now and grab us some pizzas. Than with a defensive counterattack. Speaking your truth is one of the most courageous things you can do. It is an act of self-respect. It is an act of demanding to be seen and heard in your relationships. For too long, we have believed that we have to choose between speaking our truth and keeping the peace. The I statement shows us that this is a false choice. It provides us with a tool to do both. It is a way to be honest and loving at the same time. It is a key, not a battering ram. It unlocks the door to deeper understanding and connection, rather than trying to break it down. Your voice deserves to be heard. Your feelings are valid. You have the right to express your needs. Learning to do so with I instead of you is the skill that will allow you to do so in a way that builds your relationships up, rather than tearing them down. Chapter 7. Navigating the storm. What to do when they get defensive. You have done everything right. You have had the conversation with yourself, clarifying your feelings and goals. You have set the stage perfectly, choosing a calm time and a private place. You have delivered a masterful, gentle opener, a beautiful I statement filled with vulnerability and respect. You are leaning forward with the curious, open heart of a detective, ready to listen. And then it happens. The storm you had hoped to avoid breaks directly over your head. The other person's face hardens, their arms cross, their voice gets loud and angry, or they shut down completely, retreating behind a wall of impenetrable silence, or their eyes well up with tears, and they begin to sob. This is the moment of truth. This is the moment where 99% of difficult conversations fail. It is the moment where our own fear kicks in, where our own lawyer brain screams, "I knew it. This was a terrible idea. Abort mission." Our instinct is to either fight back, matching their anger with our own, or to flee, backtracking and saying, "So, you know what, never mind. It's not a big deal." Both of these choices lead to disaster. Fighting back escalates the conflict into a full-blown war. Fleeing teaches the other person and yourself that your feelings are not important enough to be handled, and the original problem is left to fester and grow even more toxic. This chapter is your guide to navigating that storm. It is your emotional emergency preparedness plan. We are going to learn that a defensive reaction is not a sign of failure. It is not a stop sign. It is a sign that you are talking about something that truly matters. It is a flare going up from the other person's heart, signaling that you have hit a nerve, a vulnerability, a deep-seated fear. A defensive reaction is not a reason to run. It is a reason to lean in, but to do so with immense skill, compassion, and strategy. You're about to learn how to become a conversational storm chaser, someone who can see the lightning flash and hear the thunder roll, and instead of running for cover, can calmly and confidently navigate toward the eye of the storm, where peace and understanding reside. First, we must develop a deep and compassionate understanding of why people get defensive. Without this understanding, You will see their reaction as a personal attack. With this understanding, you will see it as a predictable, human, and ultimately manageable response to a perceived threat. Let's revisit the basic wiring of the human brain. As we've discussed, the amygdala, our ancient threat detector, is always on patrol. When a person feels psychologically threatened, whether by criticism, blame, or the fear of being seen as a bad person, the amygdala sounds the alarm. It hijacks the brain. This is a physiological event, not just a bad mood. It is a phenomenon that Dr. Daniel Goleman and other neuroscientists call amygdala hijack, and what relationship researcher Dr. John Gottman calls flooding. When a person is flooded, their body is pumped full of adrenaline and cortisol. Their heart rate skyrockets, often over 100 beats per minute. Their hearing narrows, so they literally cannot process nuance. Their blood flow is diverted from their rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, to their limbs, preparing them for a physical fight or flight. In this state, a person is physiologically incapable of creative problem solving, empathy, or collaborative listening. They have become a cornered animal, and their only available responses are to attack, to run, or to freeze. When you see your partner's face flush with anger, or your friend's eyes go cold and distant, you are not witnessing a character flaw. You are witnessing a brain in a state of hijack. Their defensiveness is not about you. It is a primal self-protective mechanism. An angry outburst is the fight response. They are trying to push the perceived threat away with a wall of aggressive energy. A complete shutdown or walking away is the flight response. They are trying to escape a situation that feels overwhelmingly dangerous. The deer in the headlights silent treatment is the freeze response. They are paralyzed by the emotional threat, unable to process or respond. Recognizing these reactions for what they are, primitive survival responses, not calculated personal attacks, is the first step toward compassion. You cannot effectively deal with a flooded person until you stop taking their flooding personally. Your job is not to judge their reaction, but to help them and yourself return to a state of neurological safety where a real conversation can resume. So what is the single most powerful tool you have when the storm breaks? It is the one thing your adrenaline-fueled brain will least want to do. It is the pause button. When a fire alarm goes off in a building, you do not stand there and argue about who started the fire. You do not try to continue your meeting while the sirens blare. You evacuate the building. You get to safety. A defensive outburst is an emotional fire alarm. The conversation is now officially on fire. To continue talking is to pour gasoline on the flames. You must, for the sake of the relationship, hit the pause button and temporarily evacuate the conversation. This is not a sign of weakness. It is not giving up. It is a brilliant, strategic, and compassionate move. It is the single most intelligent thing you can do when one or both of you are flooded. Calling for a timeout, however, must be done with skill. If you say it the wrong way, it can feel like a punishment or an abandonment. A bad way to call a timeout is, "You're being completely irrational. I can't talk to you when you're like this. I'm leaving." This is just another attack. It blames the other person and makes the situation worse. A skillful timeout is called using a collaborative I statement. It takes responsibility for your own need for a break, and it includes a clear promise to return. It sounds like this. "You know what, I can see this is really getting heated. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed right now, and I'm worried I'm going to say something I'll regret. I really want to solve this with you. Can we please take a 20-minute break, and then come back and try again? I need to clear my head so I can listen better." Let's dissect the brilliance of this approach. First, "I can see this is getting heated" is a neutral observation of the shared space. Second, "I'm feeling overwhelmed" takes responsibility for your own state. You are not saying "you are overwhelming me." You are owning your own reaction. Third, "I really want to solve this with you" reaffirms your positive, collaborative intention. It reminds them that you are on the same team. Fourth, "Can we please take a 20-minute break" is a specific time-limited request. It is not an indefinite abandonment. It creates a clear expectation. A good rule of thumb is that a break should be at least 20 minutes, as that is roughly how long it takes for the cortisol and adrenaline to metabolize out of your bloodstream. Fifth, "and then come back and try again" is the crucial promise that you are not running away from the problem. You are committed to resolving it. Finally, I need to clear my head so I can listen better, frames the break as a tool to improve your own ability to connect, which is a gift to them. During the timeout, it is essential that you do not spend the time rehearsing your arguments and building your case. That is like adding more fuel to your own fire. The purpose of the break is to self-soothe. It is to deactivate your own amygdala. You must do something that is completely distracting and physically calming. Go for a walk. Listen to calming music. Read a chapter of a light novel. Do the dishes. Do anything that does not involve thinking about the conflict. Your only job during the break is to lower your heart rate and return your brain to a state of calm. You must also trust that the other person is doing the same. When you return after the agreed-upon time, you can re-enter the conversation gently. Okay, I'm feeling calmer. Thanks for taking that break with me. Can we try to pick up where we left off? Now, what if a full-blown timeout feels like too much? What if the storm is just a squall, not a hurricane? In these moments, you can turn to your detective's toolkit. Your job is to meet the defensive reaction, not with your own lawyer, but with your own calm, curious detective. You must learn to see their defensiveness as a clue, a piece of data that tells you where the pain is. Let's create a field guide for handling the most common defensive reactions. Storm pattern number 1, the anger outburst. This is when the other person reacts with loud, accusatory, and aggressive language. How dare you say that to me? After everything I do for this family, this is the thanks I get. You're the one who is the problem. Your lawyer brain will immediately want to fight fire with fire. Don't you yell at me. I'm not the one who is the problem, you are. This is a guaranteed path to a screaming match. The detective's response: do not absorb the anger and do not reflect it back. Let it wash over you like a wave and stay grounded. Your first move is to get curious and to validate the underlying emotion. Remember, you can validate the feeling without agreeing with the facts. Detective move 1. Lower your own voice. Speaking softly and calmly has a de-escalating effect. It is very difficult to continue yelling at someone who is speaking gently to you. Detective move 2. Name the emotion. Wow. You sound incredibly angry about this. Just naming the emotion can be surprisingly powerful. It shows them you are listening to their feeling, not just their words. Detective move 3. Validate the feeling. And to be honest, I can understand why you would feel angry. It sounds like my comment landed on you as a major criticism, and that must feel unfair given how hard you work. Again, you are not saying they are right. You are saying their anger makes sense from their perspective. Detective move 4. Get curious. I didn't intend for it to be an attack, but it clearly came across that way. Help me understand, what was it about what I said that was the most upsetting for you? This is a beautiful, humble question that invites them out of their anger and into a more explanatory mode. You are meeting their aggression not with counter-aggression, but with a soft, absorbent curiosity that drains the anger of its power. Storm pattern number 2, the shutdown, also known as the wall of silence. This can be even more frustrating than an angry outburst. You share your vulnerable I statement, and the other person gives you nothing. They stare at the wall, they shrug, they say, I don't know, or whatever. Your lawyer brain will want to poke them until they react. What? You have nothing to say? Are you just going to sit there? This is so typical, you always shut down. This is like throwing rocks at a turtle that has retreated into its shell. It will only make it retreat further. The detective's response: you must respect the silence, but not surrender to it. The silence is also a clue. It is a sign of being overwhelmed, of fear, or of not knowing how to respond. Detective move 1. Acknowledge the silence gently. I've noticed that you've gotten very quiet. This is a neutral observation, not an accusation. Detective move 2. Get curious about the silence. I'm wondering what's happening for you right now. Or, what are your thoughts? This is a gentle invitation to share. Detective move 3. Offer a possible interpretation and give them a chance to correct it. I'm guessing that what I said was a lot to take in, and maybe you need a minute to process it. Is that right? This gives them an easy yes or no and can help them feel understood. Detective move 4. If they remain silent, you can state the impact the silence is having on you using an I statement. When you go quiet like this, the story I start to tell myself is that you don't care about what I've said, or that you're so angry you can't even speak to me. Is that what's going on? This can sometimes be the key that unlocks the door, because it lets them see the consequences of their silence from your perspective. If they still will not engage, that is a clear signal that a longer timeout is necessary. Storm pattern number 3, the tears or the emotional flood. You say something and the other person's eyes fill with tears. They start to cry or even sob. For many people, this is a deeply uncomfortable and alarming sight. Our instinct is often to panic and try to stop the tears. We might say, "Oh, please don't cry, it's not that bad. I'm sorry, I'll take it back." This is a terrible mistake. When you try to stop someone's tears, you are invalidating their emotion. You are silently communicating, "Your feelings are too much for me to handle. Please put them away." The detective's response. You must learn to see tears not as a sign of weakness or a form of manipulation, but as a sign of authenticity. Tears are a signal that you have reached the heart of the matter. You have touched something deep and true. Your job is not to stop the tears. Your job is to create a safe harbor for them. Detective move 1. Breathe. Stay calm. Your non-anxious presence is the greatest gift you can give them in this moment. Detective move 2. Offer simple, compassionate validation. "I can see this is really upsetting," or "This is clearly very painful." You are simply acknowledging their reality. Detective move 3. Offer comfort but do not rescue. You can offer a tissue. You can put a gentle hand on their arm if your relationship is one where that is appropriate. But do not try to fix the problem in this moment. The emotion needs its space first. Detective move 4. Be patient. Let the wave of emotion crest and pass. After the crying has subsided, you can gently re-engage with a curious question. "That was a really strong emotional reaction. What was it about what I said that touched such a deep place for you?" This treats their tears with respect, as important information, not as a problem to be solved. Storm pattern. Number 4. The denial and deflection. This is a very common and very frustrating tactic. You say, "When you didn't call me last night, I felt worried," and they respond with denial. "I did so call you, you just didn't pick up." Or they respond with deflection, also known as whataboutism. "You're upset I didn't call you. What about that time last month when you didn't call me back for 2 days?" Your lawyer brain will want to get into a tit-for-tat argument. You will pull out your phone records to prove they didn't call. You will relitigate the event from last month. This is a trap that will lead you far away from the original issue. The detective's response. You must be a gentle but firm shepherd, constantly guiding the conversation back to the topic at hand. To do this, you will use one of the most powerful verbal tools in this entire book, the and stance. You must make a commitment to banish the word but from your conflict vocabulary and replace it with the word and. The word but is an eraser. It negates everything that came before it. "I hear that you're tired, but we need to finish this." This dismisses their tiredness. The word and is an expander. It acknowledges their reality and adds your own. "I hear that you're tired, and this is really important that we finish." This validates their reality while still holding on to yours. Detective move 1. When they deny the facts, do not argue. Sidestep it and focus on the feeling. "You might be right, maybe I missed the call. The main point I want you to hear is that I was feeling worried and disconnected last night. You are refusing to get bogged down in the factual dispute." Detective move 2. When they deflect, use the and stance to validate and redirect. "You're right. That time last month when I didn't call you back was not okay, and I'm happy to talk about that and apologize for it. And right now it's really important for me that we stay focused on what happened last night so we can resolve this specific issue." You have validated their point. You have promised to address it. And you have firmly and respectfully steered the canoe back on course. This is a high-level skill, but it is one that can save a conversation from going completely off the rails. Navigating the storm of another person's defensiveness requires a unique combination of strength and softness. You must be strong enough to hold your ground, to not get swept away by their emotional waves, and to gently guide the conversation back on track. But you must also be soft enough to be compassionate, to be curious, and to create a safe space for their difficult feelings. It is not about being a doormat. It is about being a lighthouse. A lighthouse does not try to fight the storm. It does not get angry at the waves. It simply stands firm, stays grounded, and continues to shine its light, providing a beacon of safety for ships that are lost in the dark. When you learn to meet defensiveness with curiosity, to meet anger with calm, to meet tears with compassion, and to meet deflection with a firm but gentle redirection, you become that lighthouse. You develop a kind of emotional superpower. You will find that the storms themselves begin to change. They will become less frequent and less intense, because the other person will learn over time that they do not need to deploy these massive defensive systems with you. They will learn that it is safe to be vulnerable with you. They will learn that you are not there to attack them, but to understand them. You will have taught them a new way to communicate, not by lecturing them, but by consistently and courageously modeling it for them. This is the ultimate goal, not just to survive the storms, but to create a climate of such safety and trust in your relationships that the storms rarely need to form in the first place. Chapter 8. From Blame to Brainstorm. Finding the solution together. You have done it. You have successfully navigated the most challenging and emotionally charged part of the conversation. You have spoken your truth with clarity and courage. You have listened like a detective, seeking to understand, not to win. You have stood strong and compassionate in the face of the inevitable defensive storm. You have both now arrived at a place of shared understanding. You have emptied your cups. The emotional debris from the past has been cleared. There is a sense of relief in the air, a feeling of newfound connection. This is a monumental achievement, and you should take a moment to savor it. But your work is not yet finished. In fact, you are now standing at a critical crossroads. Many conversations end at this point. People feel the relief of being heard. They hug, and they move on, believing the problem is solved. But understanding the problem is not the same as solving the problem. To vent is not to invent. If you stop here, you are running a very high risk of having this exact same conversation again in 6 weeks, because you have not changed the underlying pattern that caused the problem in the first place. The emotional wound may be cleaned, but you have not yet applied the medicine and the bandage that will allow it to heal for good. This chapter is about that final, crucial, and often overlooked step. It is about making the pivot from the past to the future. It is about shifting from the emotional work of understanding to the creative work of problem solving. It is about moving from blame to brainstorm. This is the part of the conversation where you stop being archaeologists, digging up the past, and you become architects, designing a better future together. This is where you co-create a concrete plan, a new system, a different way of being that will prevent the leak in the canoe from springing again. It is the part of the conversation that turns a moment of connection into a lasting change, strengthening the foundation of your relationship for the long term. The first step in this process is to make a conscious and deliberate pivot. You must signal to the other person that you are shifting gears. If you just jump into solutions, it can feel abrupt or dismissive of the emotional work you've just done. The pivot should be a gentle, collaborative invitation to move forward. After a moment of connection, after you have both said things like, "Thank you for sharing that with me," or "I really understand now," you can make the transition with a simple, forward-looking question. These transition phrases are the bridge from the emotional world to the practical world. They sound like this. So, given everything we've just talked about, where do we go from here? This has been a really good conversation. What could we do differently next time to make sure this doesn't happen again? I feel so much better now that I understand your perspective. How can we work together to solve this problem going forward? Okay, so we agree that our current system for X isn't working. What would a better system look like for both of us? These questions are powerful because they are inherently collaborative. They all contain the words we or us. They are not a list of demands. They are a genuine invitation to co-create. You are saying, "I have done the work of explaining my past hurt. Now I want to do the work of building a better future with you." You are inviting them to get on the same side of the table and look at the blank sheet of paper in front of you. Once you have made the pivot, you enter what I call the creative zone. This is the brainstorming phase, and it has a very different set of rules from the emotional phase of the conversation. If the emotional phase was about careful, vulnerable sharing, the creative phase is about playful, open, and imaginative exploration. To do this effectively, you must both agree to abide by the sacred rules of brainstorming. Many people are terrible at brainstorming because they mix up the act of generating ideas with the act of evaluating ideas. This is a fatal mistake. It kills creativity before it can even take root. A true brainstorming session must be a judgment-free zone. Rule number 1 of the creative zone is separate the generating from the evaluating. For the first part of this phase, your only job is to generate as many ideas as possible, without any censorship or judgment. No idea is too silly, too impractical, or too stupid. The goal is quantity, not quality. You are throwing everything you can think of at the wall to see what might stick. You should explicitly state this rule. Okay, for the next 10 minutes, let's just throw out any and all ideas we have for how to solve this. No judging, no shooting anything down. We'll just make a big list, and then we can go back and evaluate them later. This gives you both permission to be creative without fear. You might even want to get a piece of paper and a pen and physically write down every idea that comes up. This validates every contribution and creates a visual record of your collaborative effort. Rule number 2 is adopt a yes and mindset. This is a core principle of improvisational comedy, and it is a revolutionary tool for collaborative problem solving. In a no-but-eat mindset, you are constantly shutting down the other person's ideas. They say, maybe we could create a shared calendar. And you say, no, but that's too complicated. The energy dies in a yes and hut mindset. You accept the other person's idea and you build upon it. They say, maybe we could create a shared calendar. And you say, yes, and we could set up automatic reminders for important dates on it. Can you feel the difference? The energy is positive, additive, and collaborative. You are building something together. Even if you don't love their initial idea, you can still use yes and more to steer it in a different direction. Yes, a shared calendar is an interesting idea, and it makes me think, what if we also had a big whiteboard in the kitchen where we wrote down the top 3 priorities for the week? You are affirming their contribution while adding a new layer. Rule number 3 is get dangerously specific. Vague solutions are the enemies of real change. A vague solution is a polite way of agreeing to do nothing differently. The most common vague solution is the phrase, "I'll try to be better." This is a meaningless promise. It is a well-intentioned mirage. What does better look like? How will you know if you are succeeding? A real solution is specific, measurable, and behavioral. It answers the questions of who, what, where, and when. Vague solution. Okay, I'll try to be more helpful with the housework. Specific solution. Okay, from now on my responsibility will be to take out the trash and recycling every Tuesday night, to load and run the dishwasher every night after dinner, and to do all the laundry on Saturdays. Your responsibility will be X, Y, and Z. This is a real plan. It is a system that can be implemented and evaluated. It replaces a fuzzy intention with a concrete commitment. Let's see this entire process in action. Let's return to Maria and Tom, the couple struggling with the division of labor. They have had the emotional conversation. Tom now understands how overwhelmed and resentful Maria feels. Maria now understands that Tom doesn't feel unappreciated, but often feels paralyzed because he thinks he can't do things to her high standards. They are at a place of mutual understanding. Maria makes the pivot. I feel so much better now that I understand where you're coming from. So, how can we create a system for housework that feels fair and clear to both of us, so we don't end up back in this place again? Tom agrees and they enter the creative zone. They grab a notepad and a pen. Maria says, okay, rule 1, no bad ideas. Let's just list everything. Tom starts, okay, what if we just hired a cleaner? Maria, instead of saying, no, we can't afford that, practices, yes, and she writes it down. Okay, hire a cleaner is on the list. Yes, and what if we just focused on the 3 messiest areas, the kitchen, the bathroom, and the living room? Tom builds on that. Yes, and what if we split them up? You get the kitchen because you're really good at it, and I'll take the bathroom and the living room. Maria adds another idea. What if we made a master list of every single chore that needs to be done each week, from cleaning the toilets to paying the bills, so we can see what the total workload actually is? Tom likes that. Yes, and then we could divide them up like a fantasy football draft. You get first pick, then I get one, and we go back and forth until the list is empty. Maria laughs. Okay, that's a silly idea, but I'm writing it down. What about a power hour? Once a week we put on loud music and we both just clean as much as we can for 60 minutes straight. They continue this for 10 minutes, filling the page with ideas both practical and ridiculous. They have generated a wealth of possibilities. Now and only now do they switch from being generators to being evaluators. Maria looks at the list. Okay, let's look at this. The hire a cleaner idea is amazing, but I think it's probably out of our budget right now. Maybe a goal for the future? Tom agrees. Yeah, you're right, but I really like this idea of the master list and the draft. It feels fair and even kind of fun. Maria agrees. Me too. And I like the power hour idea because it means we are doing it together as a team. So they combine the ideas into a specific, actionable plan. Okay, says Maria, here's the plan. This week, we will each, separately, make a master list of all the chores we think need to be done. On Sunday night, we'll sit down, combine our lists, and do our chore draft to divide them up for the week. We will also schedule a 1-hour power hour for every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock to tackle the big stuff together as a team. This is a brilliant solution. It is specific. It is collaborative. It is time-bound. It is even a little bit fun. They have co-created it, so they are both invested in its success. They have moved from a place of bitter resentment to a place of creative, collaborative teamwork. They have not just solved the problem, they have fundamentally upgraded their relationship. One of the most powerful tools you can introduce in this phase is the concept of the trial period. Sometimes a proposed solution can feel overwhelming, like a life sentence. You mean I have to do all the laundry forever? This can create resistance. The trial period lowers the stakes and makes it much easier to experiment. Instead of agreeing to a solution for all eternity, you agree to try it out for a short, defined period. Okay, this chore draft system seems interesting. I'm not sure if it will work, but I'm willing to try it. How about we agree to follow this plan for the next 2 weeks, and then we'll have a check-in meeting 2 weeks from Sunday to see how it's going. We can see what's working, what's not, and make adjustments. This is a game changer. It turns the solution into a low-stakes experiment. It gives you both permission to fail or to change your minds. It builds a feedback loop directly into your relationship. It communicates that any solution is not set in stone, but is a living document that can be revised as your needs change. This makes it so much easier for a reluctant partner to say yes to trying something new. But what happens if you brainstorm and you still can't agree? What if you seem to be at an impasse, where what one person wants is in direct opposition to what the other person wants? This is where we need to understand the crucial difference between a weak compromise and a creative third option. A compromise is often seen as a good thing, but in many cases, a compromise is a lose-lose situation. It is where both people give up a part of what they want, and neither person leaves fully satisfied. Let me tell you the classic story that illustrates this point, the story of the 2 sisters and the orange. 2 sisters both want the last orange in the house. They begin to argue. I need it. No, I need it. They are stuck in their positions. A classic compromise would be to take a knife and cut the orange in half. Each sister now has half an orange. They have compromised. But are they happy? Not really. Neither one has a whole orange. But what if, instead of arguing over their positions, I want the orange, they got curious about their underlying interests? Why do you want the orange? The first sister might say, I need to make a glass of orange juice. The second sister might say, I need the peel to bake a cake. The moment their true interests are revealed, a third, far more elegant solution appears. The first sister can have all of the juice, and the second sister can have all of the peel. This is not a compromise. It is a creative win-win solution that gives both parties 100% of what they actually wanted. They just had to move from arguing about positions to understanding interests. When you find yourself at an impasse in your brainstorming session, stop and ask the why question. Okay, we seem to be stuck. Let's take a step back. Can you tell me more about why having a dog is so important to you? What need would it fill in your life? Can you tell me more about why you are so resistant to getting a dog? What are you most afraid of? As you explore the deeper interests, the need for companionship, the fear of being tied down, the desire for a cleaner house, the need to feel nurturing, you open up a whole new field of possibilities. Maybe the solution isn't a dog. Maybe it's fostering a dog for a short period. Maybe it's volunteering at an animal shelter together. Maybe it's getting a different kind of pet. By understanding the interests, you can brainstorm creative third options that meet both of your underlying needs in a way you never could have imagined when you were just arguing over the dog versus no dog position. The process of moving from blame to brainstorm is the final essential stage of a successful, difficult conversation. It is the step that ensures your hard-won emotional breakthrough translates into real, lasting behavioral change. It is an act of profound optimism. It is a declaration that you believe that the two of you working together are more creative and more powerful than any problem you face. It transforms the energy of conflict from one of destruction to one of creation. You are no longer two people fighting against each other. You are a creative team, a design duo, a partnership dedicated to building the best possible relationship you can imagine. Every problem you solve together in this way becomes another brick in the solid foundation of your connection. It becomes another piece of evidence that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are a team that can handle anything. To understand the past is healing. To design the future is empowering. A truly successful conversation does both. Chapter 9. The Playbook: Difficult Conversations in Real Life. We have spent the last 8 chapters together on the training ground. We have been in the classroom learning the theory. We have been in the simulator, understanding the principles of conversational aerodynamics. We have studied the maps, we have learned how to use our tools, and we have prepared our minds and hearts for the journey. Now it is time to leave the simulator and take flight. This chapter is the playbook. It is where theory meets reality. We are going to take everything we have learned, from the initial mindset shift to the collaborative creation of solutions, and apply it to some of the most common, thorny, and emotionally charged scenarios we face in our daily lives. We will walk through these situations step by step, providing a detailed, real-time demonstration of how these tools can be used to navigate real-world turbulence. You will see how the same set of principles can be adapted to the unique dynamics of a romantic partnership, a professional hierarchy, a close friendship, and a complex family relationship. As we go through these playbooks, I want you to see them not as rigid scripts to be memorized, but as examples of a method, a dance that you can learn. The specific words will change, the context will differ, but the steps, the rhythm, and the heart of the dance remain the same. The goal of this chapter is to build your confidence, to show you that you already have what it takes to handle these moments, and to give you a clear, practical vision of what a successful connection-building conversation looks like in action. Let's begin with the relationship that is often the most intimate and therefore the most vulnerable to the poison of silence, our romantic partnership. Scenario 1. The partner and the phone. The situation. Let's meet Maya and Liam. They have been together for 3 years and have a loving, supportive relationship. But recently, a new and unwelcome guest has been joining them for dinner every night: Liam's smartphone. Liam has started a new business, and he is constantly tethered to his email and social media, trying to get his venture off the ground. For Maya, what used to be their sacred time to connect at the end of the day has become a lonely and frustrating experience of talking to the top of Liam's head while his thumbs fly across the screen. Her resentment has been building for weeks. The wrong way, the disastrous, all-too-common approach. Maya's resentment boils over one evening. She has just tried to share a story about her day, and Liam has responded with a distracted his eyes glued to his phone. Maya snaps. "Can you please get off that stupid phone for 1 second of your life?" she says, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "It's like having dinner with a robot. I don't even know why I bother talking to you." This is a classic harsh startup, a you statement laced with contempt. Liam, who has been working 12-hour days and feels immense pressure to succeed for their shared future, feels a surge of defensive anger. A robot? I'm trying to build a business here, Maya. This is for us. I'm sorry I don't have time to listen to office gossip right now. I'm trying to make sure we can pay our rent. The fight escalates. It becomes about his business versus her needs, his stress versus her feelings. They are now locked in the battle mindset. They go to bed angry and silent, the original problem unsolved, and the emotional distance between them now a gaping chasm. The right way, the playbook in action. Maya feels the anger and resentment bubbling up, but she has learned a new way. Instead of exploding, she takes a breath and decides to prepare. Step 1. The internal conversation. Maya finds a quiet moment before Liam gets home. She asks herself the 3 critical questions. First, what am I truly feeling? She identifies the anger but digs deeper. Underneath the anger, she feels lonely. She feels unimportant and invisible. She misses her partner. And underneath that, she feels a little bit scared that this new business is creating a permanent distance between them. Her feelings are lonely, unimportant, and scared. Second, what is the story I'm telling myself? Her automatic story is, he is more interested in his phone and his business than he is in me. He is bored of our life together. He doesn't value me anymore. She recognizes this as a painful but unproven narrative. She challenges it. What are other possible stories? Story A. He is under an incredible amount of stress and feels the weight of the world on his shoulders, and his phone is his lifeline to a business that feels like it could collapse at any moment. His distraction is a symptom of his anxiety, not his lack of love. Story B. He has no idea how his behavior is affecting me, and he would be horrified if he knew he was making me feel this way. He thinks he is being a good provider. She moves from angry certainty to empathetic curiosity. Third, what do I actually want? Her initial impulse is to make him feel guilty, but her deeper, more constructive goal is, I want to reconnect with my partner. I want us to create a small sacred window of time each day where we are fully present with each other, without technology. I want to understand the pressure he is under and for him to understand my need for connection. Step 2. Setting the stage. Maya knows that ambushing Liam the moment he walks in the door is a recipe for failure. She waits until after they have eaten dinner, even though it was a tense meal. The immediate pressure of hunger is gone. She uses the invitation. Hey babe, she says gently. There's something on my mind that I'd love to talk with you about. For just a few minutes, is now an okay time? Liam, hearing the gentleness in her tone, looks up from his phone, a little surprised. Yeah, sure. What's up? Step 3. The gentle opener and the conversation. Maya takes a deep breath and delivers her masterfully constructed I statement. She does not sit across from him in an accusatory way, but on the couch next to him. Well, I want to start by saying, I am so incredibly proud of you and how hard you are working to build your business. I know how much it means to you and to us. This affirms the relationship and his good intentions. And for the last few weeks during our dinners, I've been feeling really lonely and disconnected. This is her vulnerable I feel statement. And I think it's because we've both gotten into the habit of having our phones out and being distracted. This externalizes the problem to the habit and includes herself by saying we've both. And the story I tell myself in those moments is that I'm not interesting to you anymore, and that makes me feel scared. This shares her story and her deepest vulnerability. Liam is taken aback. This is not the attack he might have expected. He does not hear, you are a bad partner. He hears, my partner is lonely and scared. This bypasses his defenses and goes straight to his heart. His initial reaction is still a little defensive, a classic justification. Oh wow, I had no idea you felt that way. I'm so sorry. I'm just so stressed, you know? I've got to answer these investor emails and the server keeps crashing. Step 4. Listening. Like a detective and navigating the storm, Maya's old self would have said, see, it's always about your business. But her new self sees this not as an excuse, but as a clue. This is his side of the story. She leans in with curiosity. She paraphrases and validates. So, if I'm hearing you right, it's not that you don't want to connect with me. It's that you are feeling this immense pressure to keep the business afloat. and you're worried that if you disconnect for even a minute, something might go wrong. That sounds incredibly stressful. Liam's shoulders slump in relief. Yes, that's it exactly. It feels like I'm juggling a dozen flaming torches, and I can't let a single one drop. Maya has just made her partner feel completely seen and understood. The storm of his potential defensiveness has passed because she met it with empathy instead of a counterattack. Step 5. From blame to brainstorm. Now that they are on the same side of the table, looking at the shared problem of how to balance business stress with relationship connection, Maya can make the pivot. Okay, so, given that your stress is totally real and my need for connection is also real, what could we do? How can we create a system that honors both our needs? She has invited him to be her teammate in finding a solution. They enter the creative zone. Liam, now feeling collaborative, says, "Well, what if I promise to put my phone away for just 30 minutes during dinner?" Maya uses yes and yes, I love that idea. And what if we made it a real rule? Like, we have a little basket by the door, and when we both get home, we both put our phones in the basket and they don't come out until after we've finished eating and talking. Liam builds on it. Okay, I can do that. And maybe in return, you could understand if I need to work for an hour on my laptop after we're done, without feeling like I'm ignoring you. Maya agrees. Absolutely, that feels really fair. They have co-created a specific behavioral solution. It's not just, I'll try to be better. It is a concrete plan, a phone basket during dinner, followed by accepted work time. They agree to try it for 1 week as a trial period and to check in next Sunday to see how it felt for both of them. They have not just solved a problem, they have created a new ritual of connection and respect. Scenario 2. The boss and the workload. The situation. Let's meet David, a dedicated and competent project manager at a growing tech company. His boss, Susan, is a busy executive who values results. Because David is so reliable, he has become Susan's go-to person. Over the past 6 months, his project load has silently ballooned. He is now juggling 7 major projects, working late every night, and his anxiety is through the roof. He is heading for burnout and his work is beginning to suffer. He is afraid that if he says anything, he will be seen as a complainer or as someone who can't handle the job. The wrong way. David chooses the path of silent resentment. He complains to his colleagues over lunch, which creates a negative atmosphere on the team. He becomes passive-aggressive, taking longer to reply to Susan's emails. He starts missing small details in his reports because he is so stretched thin. Susan, who is blind to the cause, only sees the symptoms: a decline in performance and a bad attitude. In his next performance review, she gives him a mediocre rating, noting that he seems to have lost his edge. David feels completely misunderstood and demoralized, and he starts secretly looking for a new job. The company is about to lose a valuable employee, and the manager will never know why. The right way, the playbook in action. David realizes that his current path is leading to disaster. He is terrified, but he knows he must have the conversation. Step 1. The internal conversation. David sits down on a Sunday afternoon to prepare. First, what am I truly feeling? He feels overwhelmed, which is the most obvious emotion, but underneath that he feels anxious that he is going to fail and let people down. He feels undervalued, as if his hard work is being taken for granted, and he feels a sense of injustice. His feelings are overwhelmed, anxious, and undervalued. Second, what is the story I'm telling myself? Susan is exploiting me. She is a bad manager who just keeps piling on the work without any regard for me as a human being. He challenges this story. What is another possibility? Story A. Susan is incredibly busy and operates on the principle of give the work to the person who gets it done. She trusts me completely and has no idea what my total workload looks like because she is not tracking my other projects. She sees me as her star player, not her workhorse. Story B. The company is growing so fast that our systems for project allocation are broken. There is no central view of who is working on what, so overload is inevitable. This is a systems problem, not a personality problem. Third, what do I actually want? His goal is not to get out of work. His goal is, I want to work with my manager to get a clear and realistic picture of my current projects, to prioritize them according to the company's most important goals, and to create a sustainable workload that allows me to do my best work without burning out. This is a powerful, professional, and collaborative goal. He also prepares a key piece of data, a simple one-page list of his 7 major projects with a brief status update on each. Step 2. Setting the stage. David knows a drive-by conversation in the hallway is not the right venue. He sends Susan a calendar invitation for a 30-minute meeting with the subject line, Project Check-in and Prioritization. It is professional and signals the topic without being alarming. In the meeting description, he writes, "Hi Susan, I'd like to proactively review my current project list to ensure my efforts are aligned with our top priorities for this quarter." Step 3. The gentle opener and the conversation. They are in Susan's office, a formal but appropriate setting. David begins, "Susan, thanks for taking the time to meet. I want to start by saying that I really enjoy my work here, and I'm fully committed to helping our team succeed." This affirms his commitment. "Lately, I've been feeling stretched pretty thin and a bit overwhelmed," his vulnerable "I feel" statement. "And I'm concerned that the sheer volume of projects on my plate might be impacting my ability to deliver the high-quality work that you and the company expect." This frames the problem not as his personal complaint, but as a risk to the company's goals, which is language a manager understands. "I've put together a quick summary of my current projects, and I was hoping we could review it together and align on the top priorities." He offers a solution-oriented approach and invites collaboration. Susan is a bit surprised. She is used to people coming to her with problems, not with a structured, proactive plan. Her initial reaction might be slightly defensive, focused on outcomes. "Well, David, all of these projects are important. The numbers for the Alpha project in particular need to look good by the end of the month." Step 4. Listening like a detective and navigating the storm. David hears the pressure in her voice. He doesn't argue. He listens and validates. "I completely agree that the Alpha project is critical, and I'm confident I can hit those numbers." He aligns with her goal. "And looking at this list of 7 projects, I think to give the Alpha project the attention it truly deserves, I might need to deprioritize or delegate one of the smaller ones. For example, the internal documentation project is important, but perhaps not as urgent as the client-facing work." He is not saying I can't do it. He is saying, help me make a strategic choice. He is acting like a strategic partner, not a complaining subordinate. Step 5. From blame to brainstorm. Because David came prepared with data and a collaborative mindset, they are already in the problem-solving phase. The list he brought is the centerpiece of the conversation. They go through it, project by project. Susan realizes for the first time the full scope of what is on his plate. "Wow," she says, "I didn't realize you were still the lead on the beta project. I thought Mark had taken that over." They have uncovered a systems failure. They agree that the beta project can be officially transitioned to Mark. They decide to put the internal documentation project on hold for 1 month. In just 15 minutes, they have reduced his workload by 2 major projects. They then brainstorm a solution to prevent this from happening again. They decide to implement a simple weekly check-in where they use a shared document to review priorities and capacity. David leaves the meeting not feeling like a complainer, but feeling empowered, respected, and aligned with his manager. Susan leaves the meeting not feeling like David is a problem, but feeling that he is a highly valuable, strategic-minded employee who she can trust even more. Scenario 3. The friend and the fade-out. The situation: Chloe and Jessica have been best friends for a decade. Their bond is deep and has weathered many storms. But in the last year, since Jessica had her first child, the dynamic has shifted. Chloe feels like she is the only one putting in any effort. She is the one who always texts first, the one who suggests plans, which are often cancelled at the last minute, the one who asks all the questions. The friendship is starting to feel deeply one-sided, and Chloe is feeling hurt and resentful. The wrong way. Chloe decides to test the friendship. "I'm not going to text her," she decides. "I'm going to wait and see how long it takes for her to reach out to me." A week goes by, then 2, then a month. Chloe's resentment hardens into a sad certainty that Jessica no longer cares. Jessica, meanwhile, is drowning in the overwhelming world of new motherhood. She is sleep-deprived, constantly busy, and has lost all track of time. She thinks of Chloe often, but assumes her friend is busy and happy. And the act of picking up the phone to coordinate a plan feels like climbing Mount Everest. The friendship doesn't end with a bang. It silently starves to death, a victim of unspoken assumptions and a failed test that neither party knew was happening. The right way. The playbook in action. Chloe feels the pain of the growing distance, but she decides that a decade of friendship is worth the risk of a difficult conversation. Step 1. The internal conversation. First, what are my feelings? I feel neglected and unimportant. I feel sad because I miss my best friend. And I feel a little bit like a fool for being the only one trying. Second, what's my story? Jessica has her new mom friends now, and she doesn't have time or space for me in her new life. Our friendship is over. She challenges this story. What is another, more compassionate story? Jessica is in the single most challenging and transformative year of her life. She is likely exhausted, overwhelmed, and her brain is completely focused on keeping a tiny human alive. Her lack of outreach has nothing to do with her love for me, and everything to do with her current, temporary reality. Third, what do I actually want? I want to understand what her life is really like right now. I want to express how the distance has made me feel without blaming her. And I want to find a new, realistic way for us to stay connected during this new chapter of her life. Step 2. Setting the stage. Chloe knows a text conversation is a terrible idea. She calls Jessica at a time she knows the baby is usually napping. "Hey you," she says warmly. "I know you're super busy, but I've been really missing you. I'd love to catch up properly. Maybe we could take a walk with the stroller sometime next week." Jessica, hearing the warmth in her friend's voice, readily agrees. The walk and talk is the perfect venue. It is casual, side by side, and can accommodate the baby. Step 3. The gentle opener and the conversation. As they are walking, Chloe takes a breath and begins. "Jess, our friendship is one of the most important things in my life, and that's why I wanted to talk about this," affirming the relationship. "Lately, I've been feeling a bit sad and disconnected from us," her vulnerable feeling. "And I think it's because I've noticed that I'm usually the one who initiates our plans and texts, specific, observable behavior. And the story I sometimes tell myself, which I know is probably not true, is that I'm bothering you or that you don't have space for me anymore." Sharing her story with humility. Jessica's eyes fill with tears. This is the emotional flood. Her reaction is one of guilt and exhaustion. "Oh my God, Chloe, I'm so sorry. You're not bothering me at all. I've been such a terrible friend. I just feel like I'm failing at everything right now. I can barely remember to shower, let alone be a good friend." Step 4. Listening. Like a detective and navigating the storm. Chloe's instinct is to say, "No, you're not a terrible friend," but she knows that would be invalidating. Instead, she creates a safe harbor for her friend's tears. She puts her arm around her. "It sounds like you are just completely exhausted. It sounds so hard." She just listens as Jessica pours out her heart about the loneliness of motherhood, the sleep deprivation, the loss of her old identity. Chloe doesn't try to fix it. She just listens, paraphrasing and validating. "Wow, so you feel like you've lost a part of yourself. That makes so much sense." She is giving her friend the gift of being truly heard, perhaps for the first time in months. Step 5. From blame to brainstorm. After Jessica has shared everything and the emotional storm has passed, Chloe can make the pivot. "Thank you for telling me all of that. It helps me understand so much. So knowing that your capacity is really limited right now, how can we make it easier for us to stay connected? What would work for you?" They brainstorm. Maybe planned phone calls are too much pressure. Maybe a weekly check-in via voice note is better. Maybe Chloe can just come over and sit on the couch with her while the baby sleeps, with no expectation of being entertained. They come up with a new, realistic plan. Chloe will continue to be the initiator, because she has the capacity for it right now, but she will do so with a new understanding and zero resentment. Jessica's job is to just be honest about her energy levels. They have not just saved their friendship, they have redefined it to fit their new reality, making it stronger and more resilient than ever. Scenario 4. The family member and the unsolicited advice. The situation: let's meet Sarah, who is navigating her career path. Her father, a successful businessman named Tom, constantly offers her unsolicited advice. He forwards her job postings, critiques her resume, and tells her she should be more aggressive in salary negotiations. Tom genuinely believes he is helping, drawing on his years of experience. Sarah, however, feels undermined, controlled, and as if her father doesn't trust her to manage her own life. This creates a constant, low-level tension between them. The wrong way. During a family dinner, Tom starts in again. "Sarah, I saw a posting for a marketing director at my friend's company. You should apply. Your current job is a dead end." Sarah, at the end of her rope, snaps. "Dad, for the last time, please stop trying to run my life. I'm a grown woman, I can handle my own career." Tom is deeply hurt. "I'm just trying to help. You are so ungrateful." An argument erupts, ruining the family dinner and damaging their connection. The pattern is reinforced, and they are both left feeling angry and misunderstood. The right way, the playbook in action. Sarah decides she must address this pattern in a more constructive way. Step 1. The internal conversation. First, what are my feelings? I feel frustrated and angry, but underneath that I feel controlled and incompetent, as if I'm still a child in his eyes. I feel like my judgment isn't trusted. Second, what's my story? My dad thinks I'm a failure, and he's embarrassed by my career choices. He's trying to mold me into a version of him. She challenges this. What's a more generous story? My dad loves me deeply, and his primary way of showing love has always been through practical help and advice. He is genuinely trying to protect me from the struggles he faced, and he is using the only tools he knows. His advice is a misguided expression of his love and concern. This reframe is a game changer. Third, what do I actually want? I want to set a clear and loving boundary about unsolicited career advice. I want my dad to see me as a capable adult, and I want to affirm his role as a loving, supportive father, while redefining how that support looks. Step 2. Setting the stage. Sarah knows a family dinner is the wrong place. She invites her dad out for a one-on-one lunch during the week. It is a neutral, respectful setting. Step 3. The gentle opener and the conversation. After they have ordered, Sarah begins. "Dad, I want you to know how much I love you and how grateful I am for everything you've done for me. I know that you always want what's best for me and that you're my biggest supporter." This is a crucial affirmation that honors his positive intentions. And I need to talk about something that's been difficult for me. When I receive unsolicited advice about my career, like job postings or critiques of my choices, specific behavioral description, I feel undermined and as if you don't trust my ability to manage my own life. Her vulnerable feeling and the story. And that's been creating some distance between us, which is the last thing I want. Tom is surprised. He is not being attacked as a control freak. He is hearing that his actions, which he intended as helpful, are unintentionally causing his daughter pain and creating distance. His defenses are low. He might still be a little defensive. "But Sarah, the job market is tough. I just want to help you avoid the mistakes I made." Step 4. Listening like a detective and navigating the storm. Sarah hears the love and fear in his voice. She uses the "and" stance. "I know you do, Dad. I know you are coming from a place of love and protection, and I wouldn't trade that for anything." Validation. "And for me to truly grow into a confident adult, I need to be able to make my own decisions and even my own mistakes. It is really important for my own self-respect that I navigate this path on my own." Step 5. From blame to brainstorm. She has validated his intention while holding firm on her need. Now she can pivot to creating a new system for their relationship. "So, I have an idea. How about we make a new deal? I promise you from the bottom of my heart that when I am struggling with my career and I need advice, you will be the very first person I call. Can I ask in return that you trust me to run my own ship the rest of the time and just be my supportive dad who asks me how my day was. This is a brilliant solution. It is not a rejection of him. It is a redefinition of his role. It gives him a clear, honored place in her life, the first person I call for advice, while setting a clear boundary. It gives him something to do, be a supportive listener, instead of just something to stop doing. Tom, feeling his intention has been honored and his new role clarified, can agree to this new deal. He now has a new way to show his love, one that builds connection instead of creating conflict. These 4 scenarios are different in their details, but identical in their structure. In each one, the hero of the story chose to stop the cycle of painful, repetitive conflict. They chose to do the hard work of looking inward first. They chose to be brave enough to initiate a conversation with love and respect. They chose to listen with the intent to understand, not to win. And they chose to collaborate on a new future, rather than just relitigate the past. This is not a fantasy. This is a skill. It is a playbook that you now hold in your hands. Your relationships are worth the courage it takes to use it. Chapter 10. Conclusion. Your new superpower. We have come to the end of our journey together, but in many ways you are now standing at a new beginning. We started this journey standing in the cold, cramped, and lonely prison of silence. We stood there paralyzed by fear, staring at the locked door of a difficult conversation, convinced that opening it would lead to certain disaster. We believed the stories we told ourselves, that conflict was a sign of failure, that speaking our truth would destroy our relationships, that peace could only be maintained by biting our tongues and swallowing our needs. We were living with the high hidden cost of silence, the slow decay of trust, the steady build-up of resentment, the quiet starvation of intimacy, and the very real toll it took on our own bodies and souls. We thought we were keeping the peace, but we were merely presiding over the slow, orderly death of our most precious connections. Then together we began to find the keys. We found the master key first, the one that unlocked everything else. It was the profound mindset shift from you versus me to us versus the problem. We realized that a difficult conversation was not a battle to be won, but a puzzle to be solved together. We learned to see the other person not as our opponent, but as our indispensable partner in patching the leak in our shared canoe. This single shift changed the entire geometry of our relationships, turning battlefields into construction sites. With this new mindset, we discovered that the most important conversation always happens first in the quiet of our own hearts. We learned to be courageous internal detectives, untangling the messy knot of our own experience before we ever tried to explain it to someone else. We learned to dig beneath the hard shell of our anger to find the soft, vulnerable feelings of hurt, fear, and disappointment that lay beneath. We learned to see our negative stories not as objective truth, but as one possible narrative among many, and to hold them with a new lightness and curiosity. And we learned to define what we truly wanted, not to punish or to win, but to understand, to be understood, and to build a better future. We became architects of our conversations, understanding that the when and where were just as important as the what. We abandoned the disastrous tactic of the ambush and learned the respectful art of the invitation. We learned to set the stage for success, choosing private, neutral spaces where real connection could flourish. We learned to craft a gentle opener, a powerful I statement that could express our deepest truths without declaring war. We learned how to speak the language of our own experience, a language of I that invites empathy rather than the language of you that guarantees defensiveness. We then donned our detectives' trench coats and learned the lost art of listening. We committed to listening not with the intent to reply, but with the singular consuming goal of understanding. We practiced the power of the strategic pause, of the curious, open-ended question. We learned to hold up a mirror with our paraphrasing, making the other person feel profoundly seen and heard. We learned to validate their feelings, to acknowledge the legitimacy of their emotional world, even when we disagreed with their facts. We learned that to be listened to is to be loved. We also became brave emotional storm chasers. We learned that a defensive reaction, anger, tears, or silence was not a stop sign, but a flare signaling that we were in the heart of what mattered. We learn to stand firm like a lighthouse, meeting the storm not with our own fear, but with a calm, compassionate, and curious presence. We learn to hit the strategic pause button, to use the and stance to redirect and reconnect, and to create a safe harbor for even the most difficult emotions. We learned that we did not have to be victims of the storm. We could be its calm, steady, and loving navigators. And finally, we learned to be architects of our future. We learned to make the crucial pivot from blame to brainstorm, from archaeology to architecture. We stepped into the judgment-free creative zone, generating a wealth of possible solutions with a yes and spirit. We moved beyond fuzzy, weak compromises to co-create specific, actionable win-win solutions that met both of our underlying needs. We learned to see every problem not as a threat to our relationship, but as an opportunity to upgrade it, to make it stronger, more resilient, and more creative than it was before. This has been our journey. We have traveled from fear to skill, from silence to connection. But I must be very clear about one final crucial point. What you have learned in this book is not a magic spell. It is not a secret incantation that you can recite to make all your conflicts disappear. If you are looking for a world without conflict, you are looking for a world without passion, without growth, and without real intimacy. The tools and techniques we have discussed are not magic, they are a skill. And like any other skill worth having, learning to play the piano, learning to speak a new language, learning to cook a beautiful meal, it requires one thing above all else: practice. Your first few attempts to use these tools will likely feel clumsy and awkward. You will try to deliver a perfect I statement, but a little bit of judgmental you language might creep in. You will try to listen like a detective, but your old lawyer brain will interrupt with a rebuttal. You will try to call a strategic timeout, but it might come out sounding like an accusation. This is not only okay, it is a required part of the learning process. The first time a child tries to walk, they fall down. They do not lie on the floor and conclude that walking is impossible. They get up, wobbly and uncertain, and they try again. The first time you sit at a piano, the sounds you make are not music, they are noise. It is only through patient, persistent, and compassionate practice that the noise begins to transform into melody. I want you to think of your relationships as a kind of emotional gym. Every small disagreement, every minor misunderstanding is an opportunity to do a repetition, to build your conversational muscle. Do not wait for a major crisis to try these skills for the first time. Start small. Practice with low-stakes conversations. Try using the us versus the problem mindset when you and your partner are deciding what movie to watch. Try listening like a detective when your friend is telling you about a minor frustration at work. Try co-creating a specific solution when you and your roommate are figuring out who will buy more toilet paper. These small daily interactions are your practice sessions. They are where you build the muscle memory and the confidence you will need when you have to lift something truly heavy. And as you practice, you must bring an ocean of self-compassion to the process. There will be conversations where you revert to your old habits, where you let your anger get the best of you, where you say the very thing you promised yourself you wouldn't say. In those moments, do not shame yourself. Do not conclude that you are a failure. Simply notice. Notice what happened. Notice how it felt. Notice the outcome. And then, with the kindness you would offer to a dear friend, ask yourself the most important question. What did I learn, and what can I try differently next time? Every mistake is not a failure. It is data. It is a lesson. It is your personal, real-time feedback loop, teaching you exactly what you need to work on next. The goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. The goal is to be a little bit better, a little bit braver, a little bit more loving in your conversations today than you were yesterday. I want to leave you with one final essential reframing of what it means to have a difficult conversation. We have been conditioned to see these conversations as a painful chore, a necessary evil, a risk we must take to solve a problem. But I want to invite you to see them in a new light. I want you to see the act of initiating a courageous, loving, and honest conversation as one of the highest and purest forms of love you can offer to another human being. It is an act of profound respect. It is an act of radical commitment. It is an act of defiant hope. When you choose to have a difficult conversation, you are silently communicating a powerful and beautiful set of messages. You are saying, You are important to me. Our relationship is important to me. You are so important, and this connection is so valuable that I am willing to endure the discomfort and the fear of this conversation in order to make us stronger. You are saying, I respect you. I respect you enough to bring my true self and my true feelings to you. I will not treat you like someone who is too fragile to handle my reality. I will offer you the gift of my honesty. You are saying, I trust you. I trust that you are a good person who does not intend to cause me pain. I trust that you have your own story, and I am willing to listen to it. I trust that we can get through this together. And you are saying, I have hope for us. I refuse to let silence, resentment, or misunderstanding win. I believe in our ability to repair and to grow. I believe in our future. Contrast this with the silent messages of avoidance. When you choose silence, you are implicitly saying, you are not important enough for me to risk this discomfort. You are saying, I do not respect you enough to be honest with you. I think you are too weak to handle my feelings. You are saying, I do not trust you. I believe your intentions are bad, and I am not interested in your story. And you are saying, I have no hope for us. I believe this problem is unsolvable, and I am willing to let our connection slowly wither and die rather than fight for it. When you see it this way, the choice becomes clear. Silence is not an act of kindness. It is a quiet act of giving up. The difficult conversation is the true act of love. It is the ultimate expression of faith in the power of your connection. You now possess a new superpower. It is the ability to transform moments of potential conflict into moments of profound connection. It is the ability to walk into the storms of life, not with a sword to win a battle, but with a map and a compass to find your way through to the other side, together. This power will serve you in your marriage, in your friendships, in your career, and in your family. It will allow you to build relationships that are not just peaceful, but are resilient, authentic, and deeply intimate. To be truly loved, you must be truly known. And to be truly known, you must have the courage to speak your truth and the humility to listen to the truth of others. The next time you feel that familiar knot of fear in your stomach, that dread about a conversation you know you need to have, I want you to remember everything you have learned. Remember the high cost of silence. Remember the leak in the canoe. Remember the detective's curious heart and the architect's creative mind. Remember that you do not have to choose between your truth and your relationship. Remember that a brave conversation is the highest form of love. You have the tools. You have the map, you have the skill, and most importantly, you have the courage. Now go and connect. I hope this journey has been valuable for you. If these ideas resonated and you want to continue exploring ways to improve your life and relationships through better communication, please subscribe to Audio Waves.